All right, welcome to the Mangalorian, as we have now hit what I commonly am referring to as the Z era, or the Z portion of the Dragon Ball manga. My name is Danny. I'm joined by Jordan right over here. Check out Jordan's channel in the description down below. We are getting into now what I think most fans in the West are most familiar with, even though it's the second half of the story, and that is the Z portion of the Dragon Ball manga. Now, Dragon Ball Z is something that's anime only. There is no Dragon Ball Z manga. It never ever existed except for when Viz was translating chapters 195 to the final chapter because of the popularity of Z in America. In Japan, it was just Dragon Ball all the way through, which means that if you were reading Dragon Ball Weekly, right at the end of the chapter where Goku wins the tournament and flies off with Chi-Chi, the very next chapter is the Arrival of Raditz. There's a 5-year time skip, which at the time was the longest time skip in the manga. Of course, that would be the longest until the Buu arc, with 7-year time skip there. But that was a very long time skip, and at the time, there was this huge behind-the-scenes shakeup at Toei Animation, thanks to Toriyama's first editor, Torishima, that led to Dragon Ball Z being the rebranded Dragon Ball anime. I'm going to go more into that in a video I got coming out in just a few weeks, actually, called The Creation of Dragon Ball Z. And it's going to go into a lot of stuff that has never been revealed yet on this channel about how Z came to be. So, Jordan, what's up, man? You ready to get into chapter 195?
Sure am, bro. Let's get right into it.
Not chapter 1, chapter 195. I think the issue, and this is not just the fans' fault. I don't like to sit there and point the finger at the fandom for this. It's because the video games oftentimes skip original Dragon Ball. It's because a lot of times Dragon Ball Z gets the most attention from Funimation / Crunchyroll, and people have this idea in their head that Dragon Ball Z is all there is when it's not. Dragon Ball Z is the last part of a much bigger story. Of course, there's a whole story behind that, but the original manga there is no Z, like we said. And if you're reading it, Dragon Ball seamlessly goes into Dragon Ball Z. Why? Because there is no Dragon Ball Z. It's just Dragon Ball start to finish. And if you look at our little translation here, chapter 195. So all this is it's a new arc. However, the truth is, Jordan, and this is another video I'm working on, it's safe to say that the Saiyan Saga is probably the most important arc in the entire franchise because of all the things that were introduced in the Saiyan arc that stayed up until even now. The idea of Goku's backstory, the Gohan's introduction, the introduction of Vegeta, the backstory of Piccolo, all these things. So many things. So Z is taking place 8 years after Dragon Ball. Didn't I just say 5 years? Where'd you get? Did the number 8 even come out of either of our mouths, bro?
I don't know.
I don't know either. But anyways, this is the most important arc because of all the things it introduced that are still commonplace to this day. You were saying?
Oh, I was just saying that I think that the shakeup that this part of the series offers is worthy of a new title for the series. I think it's very similar to how they treated Super or Daima. There's going to be such a ridiculous like lore drop that it kind of and the entire themes and what the series as a whole is going to focus on is completely different. Like in this era, this is the era of aliens, right? This is when Toriyama was like, I'm going to shake things up and make everyone an alien, right? And then when Super came around, he was like, well, you know what? Let's make everybody a god, And now we got Daima, and we all know what's happening with Daima. So it's like,
There's always like new stuff being brought in, but the emphasis on focusing on the Saiyan characters really began in the Saiyan saga. Like, And this is where it just stuck. The Cell Saga, the protagonists were all Saiyans, even the Majin Buu saga. Like, this is just what the series would become. And it all started from this idea of Goku's backstory being revealed, even though it was chapter 195. I mean, think about this for just a brief moment. How many stories, whether it be books, whether it be movies, do you have the main character's true backstory getting revealed this deep into the story? We're already past Goku saving the Earth. He won the tournament. He's got a wife. For all intents and purposes, his story has kind of, elevated up and kind of been closed up until this point. And now we have this. Now we're done with the Earth because Goku's already explored this planet. Now we're going to go into space. Chapter 195, The Mysterious Warrior from Space.
Yeah, and people talk about how Toriyama is like not that great of a writer and how Dragon Ball is simple and all this stuff. No, bro. That the idea that he could come up with something this groundbreaking after doing everything that he did with the original Dragon Ball is absolutely insane. And anybody who works in the industry will tell you that this is one of the most innovative and groundbreaking things to ever happen in the manga industry, or maybe even, the entertainment industry in terms of like, looking at art as a whole. Like, this is just, it's insane.
And it even started even before then when Toriyama chose to grow Goku up, because that was a very frowned upon thing. But what Toriyama did smartly is he saw the writing on the wall and he said, okay, so I'm going to bring in Goku. I'm going to grow him up to being a life-size adult. But I'm to satisfy the editorial staff and others at Shueisha, I'm going to introduce the character of Gohan as the new kid protagonist. And, when you look at Dragon Ball Z, I think a lot of people, mostly Vegeta fans, think that Dragon Ball Z, just the Z portion, is the story of Goku and Vegeta. It's not. It's the story of Goku and Gohan. However, Vegeta does have a very important character arc, maybe the best character arc in the entire series, depending on whether or not you think, how you feel about it. So the series opens. Were you going to say something?
Oh, I was just going to say, I really like how from the very, very beginning, this is like playing on Toriyama's like appreciation for sci-fi films, because this is like the most typical sci-fi film setup ever. Although Toriyama
tell him
he does make it like very, very unique. Like he does it in such a unique way that it doesn't come off like the stereotypical thing you would see in like a lot of sci-fi films. But there are tons of sci-fi films from the 50s and the 60s, particularly, that open with just like a UFO landing on Earth and there's a farmer around to like, check them out. Like, this is unbelievably common in sci-fi.
That is 100% right. So many like UFO movies take place on a farm. Some alien arrives, they freak out. Back to the Future kind of made fun of it when they went back in time and Marty was in the suit and everything. That was a fun time. So 5 years after the battle between Piccolo and Goku at the end of the tournament, and things have been peaceful. Piccolo has not attacked anybody because he's been so heavily focused on developing techniques to defeat Goku. That's really been his thing. And we'll get more into that as we get into the series. Farmer with a shotgun, iconic character. We have a ship land, a guy comes out, a humanoid looking man. So this world's inhabitants are still alive. Damn you, Kakarot. And already when you're reading this, you have no idea who Kakarot is. If you're reading it for the first time, if you're Japanese, you're going through, you don't know who Kakarot is. You might even think it's Piccolo. You might be thinking, oh, is Piccolo the alien? That would be interesting. Or somebody else who failed their mission. Maybe some alien arrived and, it never turned into a big thing.
Well, if I was reading this, I would just naturally assume that it's about Goku just because he's the main character.
I know, but I'm saying people were probably thinking in their head because it didn't tell you that this is Kakarot right off the hop. It
Right,
didn't
right,
tell you Goku was Kakarot. Yeah, you don't even know. You don't even know where that even came from. As far as we know, Grandpa Gohan was Goku's only real family member, and as far as we know, that's like his legitimate grandson. You
yeah.
know?
So yeah. There's
Yeah.
definitely a sense of mystery here for sure.
Right. And I like that. I like when story arcs open up with mystery. I think the Goku Black arc in Super really gave us that feeling again because we didn't know who Goku Black was. We suspected it might have been Zamasu along the way, and we were right, but it wasn't like it was told to us right off the hop.
Yeah, the
So
mystery element of Dragon Ball is really underrated. That's true.
yeah, I think so. So this guy lands, of course, and you know, he tries to fire a gun at the alien. Raditz catches the bullet, flicks it back, and he's dead. Of course, he survived in the censored English dub because we can't have death, of course, in the series. And then, you know, Raditz, you know, we don't even know his name is Raditz yet. We just know he's the mysterious alien. He bullets and technology ain't gonna affect him, bro. Now I like how the first thing that we see, the first character we see is Piccolo. We don't even see Goku. I like how Toriyama, before introducing us to Goku and Gohan after 5 years, we meet the previous antagonist first. This is somewhat similar to what they did later on when Trunks killed Frieza. They brought back the previous arc's antagonist to get him wiped out by Trunks and then have that character tell us, hey, there's something bigger coming. Here we've got Raditz, who is about to meet Piccolo and who later on tells us about the two Saiyans on their way. Again, they're building up something for the future early on. It's a very similar formula Toriyama uses in both arcs.
Yeah, this is the Toriyama formula coming into fruition in front of our eyes for sure.
Right. And it's very similar as to how he built up those arcs. So Piccolo is already sensing some incredible power. Could it be Son Goku? And it's not. And here is our first look at a scouter. Now, the idea behind scouters and power levels, right? This whole idea was an idea that Toriyama got from his second editor known as Yu Kondo. Yu Kondo was the guy that came up with a sort of power level structure so that Toriyama could use it as a writing tool. The thing people have to understand is when you hear the meme power levels are bullshit, it's not that the power levels are actually BS. It's that the Toriyama uses these numbers as a way to tell a story, both in this arc and in the Namek saga, because the story in this arc is that the scouters can sense that powers go up and down, and so the villains are like, wait a minute. They're like, wait a minute.
Right.
This guy's stronger. But in the Namek saga, Toriyama uses them to illustrate how Vegeta has overcome that by learning how to sense ki.
Yeah, it is a very, very important like plot device, and he uses it very well. And
Yeah,
I really
and it's
like
dropped
how,
after the Frieza saga. It's
and I
dropped.
really like how he designed, how it looks there, how he drew it in the panel, like how you're seeing it through Raditz's eye. I think that's really cool, and it would also determine like how the anime and everybody else handled the way the scouters looked for the rest of the series, which is really cool to think about.
Yeah, and right here we see Raditz actually. Well, this goes first. We're reading right to left. Hello, I'm looking for a man named Kakarot, and of course, now we instantly know it's not Piccolo. Like we now know it's not Piccolo. Piccolo has no idea who he is. What are you doing on Earth? So now the story implication is there's an alien invasion. Goku and Piccolo might be the only ones that can stop it, which kind of is where the story goes. That is, I mean, because the Saiyans arriving is an alien invasion. It's just
It
the
is,
Dragon
yeah.
Ball Z version of it. Yeah, it's not.
Yeah,
It's not like Independence Day.
Well, Goku being an alien himself and, related to Raditz is such a mind-blowing revelation. It kind of numbs your brain to like all the finer details of the opening of Dragon Ball Z because, like you're finding out the main character of the series is related to an extremely powerful alien and is a member of an alien race. It's really hard. I remember like even to this day when I start reading this, it's hard for me to really like focus on all the details because I'm like, man, this is just such a huge, mind-blowing revelation in the series. You know,
it was, and the thing is, most of us kind of came into this franchise starting with Z, and that's just okay. Well, that's the story, but you have to look at it in context of the way it was meant to be read and the way it was meant to be seen. It's not the beginning of the story. It's a twist in the middle of the story that nobody was expecting, because there's no hints at all, with the exception of like 2, that Goku's an alien, and there's no hints. Like, it's not something that was hammered home a lot before. Now it's like, oh, okay, so maybe the way he is sort of not of this earth. So Piccolo's power level is right at 322, and here, Raditz is thinking that ain't shit, which is, again, we're talking about Demon King Piccolo Ma Jr. He fires a blast, again, 3 fingers in the manga. Raditz just looks at him like nothing. A lovely dust show if that was your intention. And he's like, is it my turn yet? Because now he wants to fire back, but suddenly his scouter goes off and he realizes it may be Kakarot. So he leaves. So right then and there, you know that it's probably Goku. And Piccolo himself says, I was frozen in fear, which is something you never would have thought he would ever say before this. Again, when you're reading things in context, this is still Piccolo from the 23rd tournament. This is before the Gohan relationship. This is before he became a Z fighter. Somebody who almost destroyed everyone in the last arc, is now frozen in fear.
Yeah.
Very early in this arc is the stakes changing.
Yeah. Yeah, and Toriyama, it's just, I don't know, like, I love how he does use the previous villain in that way in every single arc, but in this particular arc, the fact that Piccolo still isn't like necessarily, this is the only time that I would say Piccolo serves a more Vegeta-esque role, where he is like the side guy. He's like Goku's rival,
anti-hero rival. Yeah,
he's getting humbled by the villain, because that happens a lot to Vegeta, where that happens way more than once with him, where he gets humbled by the villain. But this is the only time we really see that focused on for Piccolo. Now, as far as this panel right here, this is probably one of the most important panels in the series, and we were talking about this prior to the live stream. But if you've read the previous volume of Dragon Ball and you go from this volume to Dragon Ball, this statement should be very, very interesting, because Goku talks about his pride as a martial artist in the last chapter. And in this chapter, we're moving to the pride of the Saiyans, which is a plot device invented to essentially counter the idea of the pride of a martial artist. It's like the opposite. And a lot of people don't catch on to that because, again, a lot of people don't read the original Dragon Ball. So, like, if you're hearing this term and you've never read the original Dragon Ball, you can't put 2 and 2 together, which is why, again, me and Danny always advocate for making sure you read the OG manga, because, this is important to take into consideration in terms of like a new development. In the last arc, this is very, very important within the context of the last arc. If you do not see Piccolo and Goku fighting to the death in the last arc, Goku and Piccolo going to fight Raditz together isn't near as impactful. It isn't near as meaningful. It's just there's so many things that reading the previous arc adds to this.
That's why if at some point we ever get a Goku and Broly or Goku and Jiren team up, I think people are going to pop for it, because historically, not just in Dragon Ball, but when we have the enemy of my enemy is my friend storylines, it's like when Loki and Thor team up. People tend to dig those a lot because it's something people really have wanted to see. Now, this is the first time in the entire manga where the word Saiyajin is used. The pride of a Saiyan warrior. It's supposed to be pronounced Saiyan, but the English dub fucked everything up to the point where now I have to pronounce it wrong in all my videos, or else I get called names by people. So
Yeah.
And now Kakarot is also Kakaroto. Now we have confirmation that's Kakaroto. Now, Kakarot is a translation that works. However, in the Spanish dub, they call him Kakaroto, which is the right way of saying it, because at the end of the series, when we see Vegito, Vegito is Vegeta and Kakaroto. Vegito makes no sense if you don't have Kakaroto. That's something that's always bugged me, but I still think Vegerot sounds weird. That being said, though, the Saiyan warrior, Saiyajin. Now, the term Saya is an anagram of the word Yasai, which means vegetable. This would begin Toriyama, well, not begin. He already had a love of puns with piccolo, drum, cymbal, tambourine, and piano. But now we have a new set of puns, which is the Saiyan names. We've got Raditz as radish, Vegeta is vegetable, Nappa is cabbage, Kakarot is carrot, Broly is broccoli, Caulifla is cauliflower, Kale is kale, Kaba is cabbage, and so on and so forth. Every Saiyan has a pun that somehow means vegetable, whether it be English or Japanese. That's why Saiyan is the right way to say it, not Saiyan. Yuck. We're in Texas. We call them Saiyan down here. It's Saiyan, but whatever. We'll say Saiyan so that fucking weirdos whose brains don't function 100% can leave me the fuck alone, even though I'm the one who's supposedly saying it wrong. Let's get to these super chats before we continue with this manga. Dragon Ball Chapter 196, Kakarot. So now we get reintroduced to the gang. But first, let's get to Justin. One of the things I find so fascinating in Dragon Ball Z was just how much higher the stakes were compared to its predecessor. No, I disagree with you. I think the stakes had been going higher and higher prior to Z. When you get to Red Ribbon and Piccolo, the world is at stake. When you get to the Saiyan Saga, the world is at stake. When you get to the Frieza Saga, the universe is at stake. When you get to the Cell Saga, multiple timelines are at stake. And then the Buu Saga, it's the universe again. And everyone is at stake. So it's a gradual increase in stakes.
I think it just feels that way because Goku is no longer godly amongst everybody on Earth. You understand what I'm trying to say? Like,
because there's new enemies that are stronger than him.
Yeah, he doesn't seem as special in Z as he does in the original Dragon Ball. And I think that's the reason the stakes seem higher, because all of this era of Dragon Ball is Goku having to catch up to people who are immensely stronger in comparison to the people that he met on Earth. So I can kind
of that started with Piccolo.
Yeah, true that.
That started with Piccolo, because think about it. The Red Ribbon Army, Goku doesn't even sweat, with the exception of the fight with Tao. He kicks all their asses. It wasn't until Piccolo that he was like, well, shit, I'm not strong enough. But that would begin. Again, you could say that what Dragon Ball Z started with the Piccolo arc, because everything goes back to it. Goku having to train to overcome his enemies started at the Piccolo arc.
You know what? In that sense, though, it makes even more sense if you think about it, that Toriyama would move on to Aliens, because it really, he probably, like, in the back of his mind was thinking, I don't want to ruin Goku becoming the strongest on Earth. You know what I mean? So
let's bring in a threat from outside the Earth.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, it just makes sense. I mean, if you look at later on in the series, you've got the Buu Saga, which is a demon. Now we're dealing with demons. You know, now we're dealing with enemies from, well, the demon realm wasn't really a thing like that was really explored till Daima, but we're dealing with entities of a demonic nature. Now this is far beyond. Yeah, Frieza was a dick, and we've had evil characters before, and Piccolo was the demon king, but now we're dealing with a whole new level of demons and warlocks and magic. So the series just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Xavier says, if Goku trained, could he have beaten Raditz? Well, if he trained before the Raditz fight harder, sure he could have. But it's not that Goku did not train during the 5-year time skip. It's that I believe that Piccolo trained so hard that he overcame him, because Goku did what happens to all great fighters in Rocky 3. He became a husband. He became a father. He still trained, but he wasn't like Piccolo. Piccolo was Clubber Lang. Piccolo was in the gym training harder and harder and harder, which is why I think Piccolo surpassed Goku, but we never got to see that rematch in the manga because of what happened with Raditz. So
Yeah, and also Goku needs special training sometimes to, especially seeing as how he's the strongest on Earth. You know, he needs to be subjected to some sort of training that can actually make him stronger as well. So
Justin says, what is Van Halen doing in that spaceship? Brother, that's every 80s hair metal. Yeah, this is back in the 80s when this first came out. Xavier then says, I know a lot of dub fans think Goku is a bitch. Gohan is a bitch, not Goku. Gohan is a bitch. Well, at the beginning of the series, he was a baby because he actually was. He was 4. So
yeah, that's just typical fandom bullshit.
yeah, I mean, but he's a kid. I mean, you know. Justin says Raditz's design was badass enough, but the mystique surrounding him and his introduction and the backstory we get for the Saiyans is so epic. It is, and to this day, I think it's one of the greatest retcons ever to retcon your main character to be an alien. Because look at all the shit we got from it: Super Saiyan, Trunks, Gohan, fucking the fucking whole Bardock thing. It's so Broly. There's just so much that came out of that. Justin Sullivan says, yes, the stakes got higher. The threats in Dragon Ball were just world-ending threats. The threats in Z were of an intergalactic scene that started with Vegeta. I would actually say it's more so Frieza. I see why you say that, because Vegeta could have definitely destroyed more than just one planet. But my point to what I was saying was the stakes in Dragon Ball were gradually, not granularly, gradually moving up and up and up and up and up. That's what I'm trying to tell you.
Yeah. And the size of the destruction doesn't necessarily determine the actual stakes either. You know, I mean, it's easy to think that way, but it's more so the situation and how intense it feels. You know, and whether or not all hope is lost. To me, that's the way I look at stakes in comparison to like how much stuff is in danger. You know.
Right. And here we have Bulma wearing a lab coat, which shows that she's still, the scientific type. This is the reintroduction of our main characters, Goku's friends. Krillin is here. Master Roshi is here. Bulma. The thing that's implied is that she says it's been far too long, but did none of them stay in contact for those 5 years? Because it's kind of implied that they didn't. And that's a little weird considering that, they went on all these adventures.
Well, Goku's kind of the glue that holds them together. If you remember in the original Dragon Ball, they would be on the verge of like not hanging out, and then Goku would be like, "Well, I'm gonna go do this," and then they get sucked into whatever he's doing eventually. So he kind of like kept them together. Like they all do it at different points in the original Dragon Ball, kind of try to separate and go back to their original lives. It's just Goku he causes so many extravagant events that they can't. So
there are multiple people in the chat asking why Bulma's hair is purple in the manga. You realize the manga came first, right? You know that, don't you? So maybe what you should be asking is, why does Bulma's hair blue in the anime? That should be what you should be asking, because the manga did come first. In before somebody says, well, Geekdom, the full colors didn't come out till after the anime. But there were colored pages in the original manga where her hair was purple. Yeah, there was even a couple where it was gray.
Yeah, it was like a really, really pretty lavender color. Like
Bulma's hair was always purple or gray. If you want to know more about that, there's a video I put out that I think did tons and tons. See, look.
Yeah,
You called it, bro. I called it, bro. I fucking called it before you even typed that. I knew what you were going to say, bro. Don't you think I've been around this fandom a little bit? There were colored pages in the original manga, Sweet Pie. I was going to say Sweet Pea, but Daisy get mad at me. Sweetie Pie. We know what her color is. Instead of focusing on Bulma's hair color, here's what I want you to do. Go to the Geekdom 101 YouTube channel, this YouTube channel right here, and type in why is Trunks' hair blue? Because there's a section of that video that I put out fucking almost 10 years ago that I go into the hair color differences between the manga and the anime. It's just mind-boggling that of everything we've been talking about, the one thing why is Bulma's hair purple? I'm pulling my hair out. Like it's that serious of a deal, bro. Like, I kind of like the purple hair, bro. I don't know.
Yeah, it does look good. It certainly makes her look different, but it makes her look good. I guess the only thing I would say about the purple hair, the only complaint I have at all, because I don't care. I think Toriyama is good at picking colors, so it doesn't really bother me when he changes things up. Especially, he just likes to change the aesthetic with the colors as well. But she does kind of remind me of that Red Ribbon Army character. Whenever she's got the purple hair here, Lavender, she does like remind me of her. Like so. In that sense, it does make her look less like Bulma and more, like it does kind of make her look. I guess the blue is what I'm trying to say is more iconic because of the anime.
Because
stuff.
the anime, we're more used to it. Yeah, I don't think it's that big of a deal though. Based Potato, the homie, says unfortunately Toriyama didn't watch the anime before he picked the manga colors. Toriyama didn't even watch the Z anime like the way people think that he did. Toriyama was too busy working on the manga. I think a lot of people really need to learn, and I've talked about this on multiple streams, that Toriyama was not that involved in the anime the way people think he was. In Daima, though, he was really involved in that and in the recent movies. But during this era, he had to put a chapter a week, bro. He had his hands in way too many pots. So here we have Roshi making a perverted joke. Here comes Son Goku, and notice that from this angle, you cannot see that Gohan is in the seat with him. And again, you can barely see him here. You see, this is Muten Roshi's house. So we have the introduction of Gohan here, a fan favorite character. Yeah, I did a whole video.
I love how cheeky Toriyama draws like the introduction of Gohan. Like he's just kind of got him barely visible in Goku's lap right there. Like
I love that. I love that it's just a little like we're not seeing all of him, just a little bit. But this is all like them kind of just having chit chat, not really anything important. And then here we cut to Raditz. So the power source is moving at a high velocity. You're mine this time, Kakarot. So now, if you were guessing, we know who Kakarot is. But again, I do wonder how the original people reading this felt, because remember, this is the next chapter. The first chapter where Raditz faced off against Piccolo was already out a week ago in Japan time. So they had to wait a whole week to even see Goku again. What do you think about that?
I'd say they were probably about to pass out from excitement, bro, because you're going from the ending of the original Budokai Tenkaichi, or the last one in the original Dragon Ball series, to this. Like, it would be two of the craziest weeks in Dragon Ball. It'd be insane. It's
Mecha J says the anime was quick to show Gohan already in the first episode before he went to the Kame house. First of all, the word quick is not the way I would describe that episode. I would use the word slow. Dragon Ball Z episode 1 is one of the most boring first episodes of any show I've ever seen, which is why I tell people to always watch the first 3 episodes of Dragon Ball Z and not just watch the first one, because oh my God, it's so boring. Like, I'm sorry, I'm not even shitting on Dragon Ball Z. Just that first episode, like, I could see why Kai cut most of it. I can see why the Ocean dub cut a lot of it. It's just not great. The manga is much quicker paced and much better, only based on that first episode. But when we get past the first episode, the anime blows the manga away, which I'll talk more about as we go through this. We're going to go through this arc here. Again, they're not showing Gohan. You can barely see him there, right? You barely see him there. And there's our first actual look at Goku's kid. Hey, he stopped moving. He's close. And then there's Goku with the kid. And obviously, and then Krillin thinks he's babysitting. Like, no, buddy. So if I were Goku, I'd be like, unlike you, I got married. And this kid proves that I got what you want. And right away, Krillin would be all like, no, damn it, no.
Yeah.
So this is the big reveal that Goku has a kid, which, of course, the reason why it's such a big deal is we saw Goku as a kid. Again, context is king. This is not the first arc of Dragon Ball. This is the 7th or 8th arc of Dragon Ball. It's the chapter 196. We've seen Goku as a kid. Now he has his own kid. I have friends that I grew up with during the hurricane, I stayed at a friend of mine's house who I've known since she was 13 and I was 16. I met her 22-year-old daughter. Her daughter.
Yeah, that's
That
wild.
was weird. That was weird. And that's something that you notice as you get older in life. If you're watching this stream and you're like 25 or you're in your 20s, it's not going to hit you till you get to your mid 30s. Then you're going to see either you're going to have a kid or your friends are going to have kids. Then you're going to see their kids go through puberty and grow up and become young adults. And you're going to be like, what the fuck? You were a kid when I.
Seeing your own kids do that.
You want to take this one, bro? Because we answered this like 3 streams ago.
Nah, just ignore it, bro.
Okay. All right. We already answered that 3 stream. Go back and watch previous editions of the Mangalorian, bro, if you want your answer. So here we have Goku and Son Gohan, named after his late grandpa. What'd you think about naming him about Gohan's name being Son
it's perfect. It's perfect. Especially once we get to the Piccolo stuff, it really kind of shows you that Toriyama is still thinking about Grandpa Gohan, which I think is important because, well, which we'll see when we get to that. But like Piccolo is sort of treated like the anti-Grandpa Gohan, like the counterbalance to the effect that Grandpa Gohan had on Goku, which would in turn birth Gohan. He's born essentially in the way that Grandpa Gohan had to rear Goku into becoming. And, because he's imbalanced in that sense, Piccolo is there as a demonic entity to bring him into balance, which I think is absolutely awesome. So, yeah, it's a very, very, very appropriate name. Like, I don't think he would work I don't think any other name would work as well.
Notice how Gohan's holding up 3 fingers there. It's 3 fingers and a thumb, but he says he's 4 years old. This is something I discussed on this channel in 2015. And I brought it up again in my History of Gohan video. In the original weekly Shonen Jump run of this manga, the first run in the late 80s, Toriyama wrote that Gohan was 3 years old. Yeah. Now, in every subsequent reprint of this chapter, whether it be the Kanzenban, the Tankoban, whether it be the single sets, whether it be the Viz, doesn't matter what version you're reading, unless you have the original 1988 Shonen Jump release, it was changed to 4 years old.
Yeah.
And that I always found to be fascinating. And we don't even know to this day why that change was made. But 4, I think, makes more sense. I remember in the original Ocean dub, he said 5, and that was another incorrect number. So we go on as a tale, and then, of course, Roshi is saying, do you know about the full moon? Harkening back to the previous, the way early in Dragon Ball, when Goku would become a grade 8. Now, interestingly enough, Goku was never told about this. Roshi and Bulma and Krillin, nobody told him he became a grade 8 because he didn't remember. And what do you think about that? The fact because Goku has no idea. Like he has no clue what they're talking about.
I think that they understand that Goku is like very simple-minded and that it would be very hard for him to wrap his head around turning into a giant monster. Like, I think the way he does find out is the most appropriate way for him to find out because he sees the explanation like right in front of him. And I think that's the best way for him to find out. I think if he was told any other way, it would cloud his thoughts too much because it would be something that he would wonder about. I actually think it would probably take away from his ability to perform in combat because he would be like, well, what am I actually? It would be like a conscious thought in his mind. So I'm glad. I think there's actually a lot of wisdom in not telling him. I think that actually was very, very important.
He does find out by the end of this arc. And then Yash with a very good point here about Gohan with the 3 fingers and a thumb like the Manzoku. Manga only, but he's right about that. Now, I like this comment. Goku only had Chi-Chi for a year to himself. That is correct. Yeah, but they were busy because if they weren't, Gohan wouldn't be here. Now, this is the part where Krillin asks if Gohan has trained, if Goku has taught him martial arts, and according to Goku, Chi-Chi says that now that we're in peacetime, there's no need for martial arts, which I think is stupid because Chi-Chi knows that Piccolo is alive. Chi-Chi knows that Piccolo is out there. You would think that she would at least encourage Goku to train more. And that is the beginning of, I think, the Chi-Chi character a lot of fans don't like. That was, in my opinion, really made worse in the anime. Because the anime version of Chi-Chi is made up to be much more of a dragon lady than the manga. But, man, that's kind of dumb to me. You know what I mean? Like, that's kind of dumb to me.
Yeah, I do know what you mean.
Hold on, let me address this right here. One of my biggest anime questions was, why did Raditz say Planet Vegeta was destroyed by the meteor 2 years ago? You know why he said 2 years ago, buddy? Because you're watching the fucking dub. That's why he said 2 years ago, because he never said that in the Japanese version. Maybe if people listen to Danny for once in their fucking miserable, stinking lives, I'm just kidding. I hope you have a good life. Maybe you'll learn that eventually the dub is garbage because of shit like that.
Yeah.
Anyways, what were you saying?
So many inconsistencies and completely shifts the narrative into something that's just like completely
changes shit for no reason, leaves things confusing. It's just And then look at this, bro. He wants to know why I call him Bon Jedi Ranger 2 in the server, bro. Do you see that? That's why he's got that name, bro.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, I was like, no, I'm sorry. No, I'm not mad at you, bro. I'm fucking with you. But the point is that the dub, okay, I'm going to say what I said the other day on stream. Dragon Ball Z Episode 1 has 43 dub changes. Dragon Ball Z Episode 1 has 43 dub changes. If Episode 1, where nothing fucking happens, has 43 lines changed, don't you think the rest of the series might also have a lot? Don't you think maybe you're watching the wrong version? But Sean Schemmel, Bruce Faulconer, don't you think maybe you're watching my favorite one is Dragon Ball Daima for little kids, but they'll watch the dub that's been censored for little kids. Yeah. All right, bro. All right, bro. Do you? Anyways, back to the original story. So we have the 4-star ball on Gohan's head, which would, of course, be the heirloom from Grandpa. And here they use the Chinese languages for some reason. This translation is very spotty and weird. Not bad, just they change shit. So here Goku senses a very large energy. I love the background here with these little blue, like little swirly effects. What an incredible power. I can barely believe what I'm feeling. But what could possibly... There!
Then he's there.
There it is, bro. This is a great couple of pictures right there, bro.
Yeah, it is.
I love it. And guess what? That is your cliffhanger. Wait, I think it's your cliffhanger. Is it? No, it's not. There's still more. Okay, it's coming up as the cliffhanger. So we finally got to meet. You've certainly grown up, haven't you? But I could still recognize you at first glance. You look just like your father. Your father. You mean our father, motherfucker? I guess he didn't say that. Huh? What's he talking about, huh? Kakarot, what's with the condition of this planet? Your mission was to exterminate the species. What have you been playing at? And then Krillin's like, I don't know who you are, but you got the wrong guy. And then Goku's like, no, don't get near him. Wham, tail whip. Raditz used tail whip. High damage. Krillin, KO.
Critical.
That's a Pokemon reference, by the way.
Yeah, no, critical damage, bro.
Yeah. Kuririn! And then he goes head first into the wall, bro. Dub just sounds cool. Yeah, bro. Changing the story around to make it more American does sound cool, bro. I'm being sarcastic. And then they see his tail, which is like, wait a minute.
A huge thing.
Yeah, Goku has a tail. Son Gohan has a tail. What does this mean? Hold on.
Yeah, I gotta tell Toriyama was really feeling his ability to tell stories at this point.
No, buddy. You're not getting away with this one. This fucking guy, Nightmare Trooper, says translation tech was very limited back in the old days. We had to rely on pro translators. No, buddy. If that's your excuse for the dub sucking, you have no clue what you're talking about, my friend. There were anime dubs going back to the 70s that had accurate translations. Funimation had Steve Simmons, who was doing the sub version under a long-time employee deal, buddy boy. Don't start with this fucking bullshit about, oh, we didn't have any tech back then. Get fucked on that one, buddy boy. Barry Watson decided to Americanize Dragon Ball Z because they think that little American kids are too stupid to understand a Japanese story, and they were worried about offending the parents. That is a fact. I've got interviews with Chris Sabat on this channel saying that. Don't even start with the translation tech not being good, bro, because you sound stupid when you say shit like that. By that logic, anything subtitled that came out before 1995 is wrong. So all the foreign movies, all the fucking Japanese, Chinese, European movies are all wrong because of the technology? No, you sound stupid, bro. Don't ever say something that stupid around here again, bro. Do not make excuses. Barry Watson and Gen Fukunaga thought that you American kids were fucking stupid and they censored the fuck out of Dragon Ball. That is a fact. Chris Sabat said it on this channel. Don't deny it. That is a fact. It has nothing to do with technology or any of that shit. That is a fact.
Right.
Yeah, don't start with this fucking, oh, the translation tech. Are you out of your mind, bro? I was watching subtitled movies when I was like a kid before I even knew what Dragon Ball was and the subs were accurate. What about all the subtitled Jackie Chan movies? Those were all wrong? Like, are you nuts? You're nuts, bro. Anyways, chapter 197, Tales of Future Not Quite Past. That's supposed to be a pun on Tales of Futures Past from X-Men. My name is Son Gohan. When I grow up, I want to be a great scholar. Well, he might want that, but the fandom sure as shit didn't. Anyway, let's move on with the story. So this is where we get the grand backstory of Goku, and this is where Raditz reveals that his name is Raditz. They're from planet Vegeta, and that Son Goku forgot about his mission. That's basically what it is.
Let's talk about the scholar thing for a minute, because a lot of people misunderstand that. So one of the biggest things that I've seen, or one of the biggest pieces of misinformation I've seen floating around in terms of this topic, is the idea that Gohan only wants to be a scholar because of Chi-Chi, and that's just not the case at all. Toriyama said himself that he wanted Gohan to become a scholar to essentially contrast Goku. Like it was a character trait that he specifically gave him to contrast Goku, that he gave him as the creator and as the writer. He did not write it in a way to make it to where Chi-Chi like influenced him or like dominated his personality or like pushed him to be a scholar in any meaningful way, other than, her nagging him to do it all the time. He inherently wants to become a scholar. Like that's a very important aspect of his character. And we see that a lot more in modern Dragon Ball now, because at the beginning of Daima, where's Gohan? He's studying because he didn't get to get his studying in, but a lot of people misunderstand that. They think they blame Gohan's yearning for knowledge on Chi-Chi, but that's just something that's a character trait that Toriyama wrote in for Gohan.
Chi-Chi may have pressured that and wanted that for him because she was worried about her son being caught up in like danger and shit. But that's the thing that Jordan and I did a video. It was a Dragon Ball Saiyuki. I think it was called like Goku versus Gohan. The differences in Hero. It was about basically like how Goku and Gohan are two different characters. Goku cannot be like Gohan. Gohan cannot be like Goku because of how different it is.
Yeah.
Let me address this right here. It ain't Z without Falconer. Well, here's the problem with that. Dragon Ball Z has aired in hundreds of countries in the world, and you know how many of those countries had the Falconer soundtrack? One. So That's objectively wrong. And here's the other objectively wrong piece of information. Dragon Ball Z, this part of it right here, didn't have Bruce Faulkner doing the music.
That's hilarious, bro.
It's just like Faulkner fans don't even fucking know what the fuck he did, bro. Like, it's just, and then that's the other thing that bothers me. Well, the Faulkner score is the reason it was popular. Oh, okay. So when it was on Toonami with the Ocean dub before Faulkner even got hired, that wasn't what made it popular. Listen, bro, I live in a world of fact. I don't live in a world of make-believe. If you want to live in this make-believe world where Bruce Faulkner is God Almighty and you want to worship his fucking throne, go for it, bro. Go for it. Go ahead and suck his fucking dick all you want to, bro. Go Google Cake Mix Studios. Go to his studio and get down on your knees and put your mouth on his genitals, bro. In the real world, Dragon Ball Z got over in every country it was ever aired on without Faulkner at all, including this one, because Faulkner didn't even come in until the fucking Frieza saga, the Ginyu arc. So I gotta fight all. I don't even want to have this discussion with people, but it's like this whole fucking stream has been debunk after debunk after debunk, and we're supposed to be reading this fucking manga and honoring Toriyama, and it's like I'm trying to like, but I really want people to know this shit. Like,
yeah,
this is not even a thing where it's like, you know. Okay, how about this one? There's the reason SSJ had a concert at Kamehacon, though. You know what the reason for that is, bro? You want to know what the reason for that is? This guy right here is the reason why they had a concert at Kamehacon. It wasn't the fucking owners. It sure as shit wasn't them. It wasn't their talent agent. It was me. And if you don't believe me, awesome. Why don't you ask them? How about this? Why don't you see which YouTuber actually had a live concert on his channel with those guys? I only think of one, and it's this channel right here. Yeah, get fucked, bro. Don't come in here with this fucking incorrect information, bro, because I'm going to make you look stupid. Like, don't even start. The concert was amazing. Those guys are very talented. Anyway, so this is the whole reveal of the backstory. We've been through this already. We've already been kind of known what's going on. And then this is the part where we find out a lot more about Goku's backstory.
Yeah.
Because Goku, your grandfather once told me about the time he found a baby in the woods, a baby with a tail. He had a violent disposition and couldn't even seem to be tamed by anyone. That is, until that baby accidentally fell down a ravine, hit his head. The boy nearly died, but pulled through. When he awoke, his violent temper subsided, and he grew into a kind-hearted boy.
That part in particular, and just the introduction of Raditz and the Saiyans in general and their attitude and stuff like that, is why when people tell me that Dragon Ball stopped playing on Journey to the West during the Z era, I literally like have to resist laughing in their face, because the whole transition from being somebody with a naturally aggressive nature to somebody with a kind nature is like it's a staple Journey to the West concept. Not to mention the fact that Goku is literally meeting somebody who represents a part of his nature that he's abandoned as a martial artist. Like, he's literally having to face someone that is a literal representation of the part of his nature that he's like discarded and has to face all the time as a martial artist and prevent himself from essentially becoming somebody like Raditz. And it's just like all of that stuff, especially if you know about Kung Fu lore, it's very, 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 very clear what Toriyama is thinking here, because And he played on the same symbolism throughout the original Dragon Ball as well, but the way that he did it through Raditz is very, very, very well done, because essentially what Raditz is he's giving you an example of everything that Goku's not supposed to be as a martial artist. Very, very similar to Piccolo, but in like a sci-fi way rather than like a demonic way, which again I find very interesting and innovative.
Right. And Pota says, no, the way Toriyama blends sci-fi references with the mythology influence is perfect here. Yeah, that's why this is some of my favorite like time period for Dragon Ball. And by the way, I want to make this clear. Just because I'm loud does not mean I'm mad. It means I'm just loud. I'm Cuban. I get loud sometimes. Cubans, Puerto Ricans, Mexicans, we're very loud people. If you don't believe me, go to a party. If you've ever been to a party with a Cuban, Puerto Rican, or Mexican, especially if there's alcohol, it's going to be loud. And we're having the time of our lives. If you've ever been with a Puerto Rican, Cuban, or Mexican woman, you know she's loud. And we'll leave it at that for all the kids in the audience. All right, Justin Sullivan says, you would think for a family reunion that Raditz would give a proper greeting for Goku and maybe bring some Coca-Cola, but no, he just starts yelling at Goku and bitch slaps his best friend. Such a nice guy. Not, yeah, bro, but remember, we want him to get resurrected and become friends with everybody. That's what the fandom wants. We need Goku's got to teach him the Super Saiyan form so they can be brothers again. Anyways, what do you have to say about that, bro? He's right. Raditz is not being very diplomatic here.
Well, I mean, he has no reason to be. I mean, he can tell. He has the scouter on. He can see the power difference, and it's just not. And again, his behavior is a reflection of the aspect of Goku's nature that we don't ever see. We do not see this part of Goku, and it's very, very important because it sets up the progression that Goku's going to go through in a very, very similar way to Gohan's progression, also simultaneously being set up here, because what Dragon Ball Z really is about, it's about Goku facing his past and learning from it in order to maintain balance as an individual, because at this point, he's almost too pacifistic. He's just too, like, he's basically like he needs to progress in the opposite direction. He needs to learn to implement his more violent nature and embrace it in certain ways. Very, very similar to Gohan as he interacts with Piccolo and grows with Piccolo. And I love that about this series because, the entire last, it's just very innovative of Toriyama because the entire last series is about Goku mastering and discarding a part of himself that is essentially demonic and evil in nature. And then you get to Dragon Ball Z, and this is something that a lot of people don't pick up on or even understand about the series, but this series is entirely based on him embracing that part of himself and making it like a weapon that he can use for good, and essentially taking that part of himself and making his best friend in combat, which I think is awesome.
John Myers was discussing him being loud, being Dominican. Yeah, DRs, which is Dominican Republic, they are loud there as well. John Myers is definitely not a Dominican name, though, interestingly enough. This is the guy earlier who I raised my voice at, who said he was in ROTC. Now that I know you're an ROTC, bro, you're right. You can get loud. Please forgive me. Please, I'm going to be like Kenny from fucking Cobra Kai season 4. Please don't kick my ass.
Yeah, I remember that.
Nobody if you haven't seen Cobra Kai, you don't know what we're talking about, bro. Please don't kick my ass. Never mind. If you've seen Cobra Kai, you get where I'm coming from. Yeah, Hispanics are very loud people. Xavier says Raditz owes Goku 20 plus years of beatdowns. Yeah, how many birthdays did he miss? And J Fire 88 theory: Goku and Vegeta will reach Super Saiyan 3. They have essentially hit the reset button. They have to now relearn Foundation Basics, SS2, 3. If there's a fusion, I think they fuse, then go Vegito, SS3. I think you're talking about Daima. Is that he's referring to Daima, right? Because he can't be talking about this.
Yeah, he's definitely talking about Daima.
Yeah, I think you're talking about Daima. His super chat would have been more appropriate 2 days ago when we did the Super Magic show about Daima. But what were you going to say about his super chat? I'm not against that. I'm just letting him know that's a different show.
Speculation for Daima. That's all I was going to say.
But he's actually 100% right though. Goku has to relearn in Daima. Goku has to relearn how to use his body and tap into the Super Saiyan forms again. So that he's right. Like you say it's a theory, and it is a theory, but you're right about being. Yeah. You're right about those theories. Why are we talking about Daima here? Well, we're not supposed to be talking about Daima here, but the gentleman was kind enough to donate. And when you donate, I just don't feel comfortable, like, just blowing you off unless you do
something really stupid.
Unless you're being a dick. Yeah, then that's different. Yeah. But he wasn't being a dick. I think he was just genuinely wanting to give his theory. He may have meant to do it. He may have missed the stream 2 days ago and wanted to do it here. But the streams where we discuss Daima are usually Sundays and Mondays, or Sundays or Mondays. And then Tuesday is the Mangalorian. This series is a limited series because we're gonna do the entire manga, and then maybe we'll do Jocko, and then maybe some one shots. But I think when we hit the volume 42 is when we're gonna be done with the Mangalorian, at least for now. You know, the point of it is to tribute Toriyama, but we even like did yes, that is a pause. Yes. What I was going to say was the reason why we did the Mangalorian was to go back to the roots of Dragon Ball, and we had this planned out before Toriyama ever even passed away. I mean, I think I announced it on a stream like in September or some shit, November of last year. So it's not a Toriyama. It's become a Toriyama tribute series posthumously, but it was going to be one whether he lived or not. So.
Right.
And then this whole thing here is Goku. This is where Raditz tells Goku, like, you know, he's going to try and get his memories back and that they need Kakarot. And I remember in the like dub, I think in the dub, there's some line where Raditz says some shit like, or maybe it was Vegeta. It was Vegeta who said, we ran into some problems over on planet Rygal 7 and needed help. That's all bullshit. He never said any of that. Like, they just made up dialogue for Vegeta that he never fucking said. But this is the whole thing where Raditz is starting to tell Goku that they're the same, that he's from the Saiyan warrior race. Now, Goku does not accept his birthright until the next arc, but this is the beginning of a long story arc where Goku denied his heritage. He didn't want to be a Saiyan. He wanted to be an Earthling. And at one point, he's like, well, maybe I am a Saiyan, but fuck it. I was raised on Earth. I don't care. I represent the Earthlings. It's like nature and nurture. It's like if you were raised in, let's say you were raised in, during World War II. You find out that you're a German, but you were raised in like Russia, but you represent Russia in World War II. Like, that's an example right there. It might be a dumb example, but it's more about like, you know, I'm not going to say Rey Skywalker because I hate that comparison, but you can kind of represent who you want here.
Yeah.
So this is where he actually reveals his name. My name is Raditz, and I'm your older brother. What? It can't be. It can't be. Goku has a brother, and he's an alien?
He's an alien, yeah.
I mean, he's got the tail. You know he's not lying because of the tail. The tail is the dead giveaway. Yeah, like Goku had a fucking tail. Like, we know that. We were sent here to exterminate the planet species. Not only are we Saiyans universally renowned warrior race, we're also entrepreneurial one. We locate hospitable worlds and sell them to other species for a price. But before we can sell a planet, we have to exterminate the native life forms. The thing about that, though, is that they weren't really the brokers. It was Frieza who was the entrepreneur. But we found that out later.
Yeah,
Toriyama hadn't come up with Frieza yet.
Well, yeah, that's true. But I think that Raditz, retroactively, you can just kind of look at this as Raditz basically, because Raditz and Vegeta and Nappa always intended to eventually branch out on their own. So you can kind of just, and the Saiyans were at one point entrepreneurs, so you can look at it that way. But
yeah, I'm not upset about it. It's just funny how he says that. And now here is where he goes into like, well, the babies are sent to the weak planets, and the strong planets are the adults go there, and that's why Goku was sent to Earth as a kid. And then, of course, this is when he talks about the moon being full, is when the Saiyans show their true power. And this is a panel from original Dragon Ball, a redrawn one. And, of course, the three of the many witnesses that saw what Goku was really capable of as a great
alien.
ape.
This is the first time not only are they recontextualizing Goku as an alien, they're recontextualizing the great ape as a weapon implemented by aliens in a battle race that basically pillages planets, which is also very, very interesting. Yeah,
and it's not like I think a lot of folks take that like, well, Toriyama's now drifting away from Journey to the West. Not necessarily. It's like what Pota said earlier. Toriyama's taking Journey to the West ideas and just adding a sci-fi twist to them. It's no different than when you take a story, like when you take, for example, this might be a bad example, but Jason Voorhees in space and Jason X. People do that all the time, bro.
Yeah,
You know?
exactly. Yeah, and
Yeah.
and if you are actually supposed to consciously keep that in mind here, because the fact that the Saiyans embrace their great ape forms and know of it speaks to the personality traits of the Saiyans themselves, and sort of because the great ape was originally a representation of the other aspect of Goku's nature. The fact that the Saiyans are aware of it and also implement it as a weapon speaks to what the Saiyans themselves represent for Goku, which is the other aspect of his nature that he's neglected.
Yeah, the combat side of him, he always had a thirst for martial arts knowledge, but we didn't know he was from this bloodthirsty,
Yeah.
thing. Race. Justin says, Danny, I remember hearing once that the Saiyans were inspired off of the Spartans. I wish to know if that's true because you got to admit both groups are similar. I could see that being partially. I could see. I mean, the Spartans inspired.
I think Toriyama himself was fascinated with warrior races, and the Spartans are considered that
Big one. The Mongols too.
Yeah, the Mongols. So I think he particularly, because he clearly had a taste for history as well. He clearly liked to be knowledgeable about history as well. So I think the Saiyans are an over encompassing concept that sort of just represents something that's occurred in society over and over again, and that's these warrior races who conquer and take over everything, because that is a part of human nature. Despite the fact we're talking about aliens and Saiyans here, that is reflective of human based storytelling and human based concepts and like human aspects of our psychology. So
Justin's onto something in that. Even though Toriyama never directly said the Spartans, this is a recurring theme in human nature. And the thing, to Jordan's point, and I'm going to say something now that's really controversial, but it's true. We live in a society now that's very civilized in how we are. But if you look back at the history of man, if you go back, especially before like the 1500s, when you had even the BC era, the Mongols, you had, like you said, the Spartans, there were the Native American tribes. Human beings at one time were very, how can I put it? We committed a lot of really bad things. I mean, if you look at like how tribes would conquer other tribes, this involved like raping women, slaughtering children. Like, these are things that are completely frowned upon now, that are evil acts, and yet it was commonplace thousands of years ago. And I'm not saying the Saiyans are like that, even though the Saiyans have done things, I guess, akin to them, but it's clearly similar. It's clearly similar. Pablo Loves Cheese says, I'm honoring Toriyama by watching Dr. Slump. Well, that's a great reason to honor him. When I first started my Discord server, we watched a lot of Slump the first year. We did. I have to get back to it because it's been a while, but it got really popular in the server. Seer says hostile and territorial. That's part of it. I'm talking about the fact that we're very violent by nature. Not so much now, but at one time in human history, like, you have to, if you read back on things that would happen thousands of years ago, dude, I don't even know.
This comes back to the same philosophy that Dragon Ball self adheres to, which is there is a correlation between our desperation to survive and our
Listen to him. He's kicking knowledge. I'm putting you over. Yeah. Go ahead.
There is a correlation between our need to survive and being in desperate situations and us committing evil, heinous acts. That's the reason that in civilized societies, because we live in a society where we're not really necessarily it's not the jungle. We're not in desperate situations where we have to act primal or angry or more survival instinct based as a species. The more civilized we become, the less we are likely to kill each other and do horrible things to each other, and there is a correlation between being in desperate situations where everybody's life is on the line and doing selfish things and trying to put yourself above others. A lot of the excuse that a lot of people, even in the modern era, like rich people particularly, the excuse that they use for a lot of their actions and stuff is, life is short, and they're not wrong, so.
Yeah, but you can live a good life and not just be a terrible person all the
That's true.
time.
That's true.
Nick, I want.
But in the
Mhm.
back of their mind, they're thinking, "Oh, I'm only going to live for so long." They're basically fascinated with their own death, and that's what causes them to do horrible things. Is the fact that they're selfish in that way. They're so focused on the fact that life is temporary and survival that they do horrible, selfish things. And that's kind of what you're seeing here with the Saiyans. The Saiyans themselves are aware of their own mortality. They are aware of their, and they have a lot of pride in their standing as a species, which Raditz himself talks about when it comes to the pride of the Saiyans and stuff like that. So, a lot of this running around taking over planets and practicing this overall like capitalistic attitude, the entire purpose of it is to make sure that they as a species thrive over other species. Survival is in the back of their mind the entire time.
Nicholas Henry said, "What if the Saiyans are originally good than the Namekians before they became vicious?" That was the original plot for Battle of Gods before Toriyama stepped in. So that's not the case. But it's funny you mentioned that because that was the original plan for Battle of Gods. Like that was the original plot. Moving on here, this is where Goku says, "Get the fuck off my planet. My name is Goku now." He's embracing his earthly nature. But of course, Raditz is not easy. And then he says, Saiyans have always been a race, few in numbers, but after our homeworld was struck by a giant meteor, nearly all of our people were blown into a cosmic dust. Of course, that meteor would later be revealed to be Frieza. So it's a lie that went on for many years. Even our parents, Kakarot. And then Goku's kind of like thinking about it, but he's not really moved because he has no. The thing about Goku and Raditz and Bardock and Gine is that he has no real connection to them because he never spent any time with them, except for in the recent rewrites like Dragon Ball Minus and Broly and the Super Manga. But when the original manga was being written, when young Toriyama was writing this, he made it a point that Goku had no relationship with his parents or with his brother. He loves Krillin. He loves Roshi. He loves Gohan. He loves Bulma. He doesn't know any of these people.
Yeah, Krillin is his brother. He looks at Krillin as an actual brother in arms, which I think makes this scene like really cool because it's basically showing that he rejects everything that Raditz stands for and everything that Raditz is because he's a martial artist. It speaks to Goku's upbringing and his attitude as a martial artist. And Toriyama, this is what I say about like Toriyama's storytelling all the time. It's like subtle. It's very, very, very subtle. Like it's not like a storybook where he's like describing every little cool detail of the story to you. You have
Daima's kind of more like what you're describing now. There's a lot of dialogue in Daima. Lance has criticized it where it's like they're explaining things like almost like forced in a way.
Yeah.
But when Toriyama was writing the original manga, this is why I say that Toriyama of the 80s and 90s and the Toriyama that wrote the recent stuff is a totally different man. He's got his kids have grown up. He's super wealthy. It's just a different. I mean, he was always rich back then, but now he's not doing a weekly manga, and so he's just a different guy. And there's the thing. We all change as we get older. This is not an insult to the man. We all change as we get older, man.
Just as blatant as that, though. But that doesn't mean there's not subtle storytelling in the background. All of the exposition that Goku and Raditz are talking about here is just as blatant as the exposition that we've got in Daima. It's just as blatant. There is no difference in how blatant it is. The thing is there's always subtext going on in the background, and that's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about like. The thing is like Toriyama is actually describing events here and describing the story, but that's not the entire story. Just because you are describing events doesn't mean there's not 1,000 other words that aren't being said that also build onto this. That's basically my point, is that even if Toriyama is like describing some things to you, that doesn't mean that the stuff that he's not describing to you isn't like has much more depth. That's basically what I'm trying to say.
Mango be poppin'. That's a question for Masako X, my friend. That right there is a Masako X question. Who, by the way, may be coming on. I might bring Masako X on to talk about Daima soon. I'm thinking about it in the Super Magic show. So Jordan was a guest and 2 shows ago. I had Star Blast yesterday. I think Lance is going to be the guest this coming week, and Real to Real the next week, and then Nadolny. Stephanie Nadolny is planned. So fingers crossed that she has time to do it. Because she's, So here is where basically Raditz talks about this planet that can be sold for a very high price. The natives are potent. Even 3 Saiyans might not be enough to finish the job. But if the 4 of us got together. Now, here's the funny thing about this. To this day, ladies and gentlemen, we never found out what planet he was talking about. Vegeta didn't mention it. Nappa didn't mention it. Frieza didn't mention it. You could maybe say it was maybe Yardrat because that's where the Ginyu Force was headed, but they never told. Yeah. But they never said what planet it was, and that's one of those cool things that I'm like, I wonder what planet they were going to take over. You know what I mean?
I mean, it would make sense that it's the Yardrats because they have all of those amazing abilities,
Well, some people in the chat, like Tritone, Frieza, and Yash, think that he was lying. He might have been, but I don't know. He has no reason to lie about that. I mean, he's just going to say, yeah, we need the 4 of us to go take him over. And the reason why I say Yardrat is not because the Yardrats are all that strong, but because we know the Yardrats have incredible abilities, teleportation, Force Spirit Fission. They know a lot of cool shit that might actually give the Saiyans a run for their money. So exactly. I think Yardrat makes sense. But have you ever thought about this? How this was not even mentioned again? Because I didn't even realize until like a few years ago.
Yeah, I have thought about it.
Raditz, I think, was the first character Goku was afraid of. Am I wrong? Well, he was intimidated.
Character. Well, he's the first. Okay, so they go out of their way to basically, because Goku normally gets excited, especially like when he was fighting Piccolo at the end of the original Dragon Ball. Like you could see the excitement in him. But they do go out of their way here in a few to have Goku say that for the first time he's like terrorized, and that like. And Piccolo even notices that he's like, "Whoa, you're not excited." Like, what?
Even Piccolo was like, "Who is this motherfucker?" They all had that. Yeah. So like Raditz was put over.
First person. I don't think it's the first person he's scared of per se. I think there's always been a degree of fear whenever Goku is facing somebody that can endanger other people, not necessarily himself, but like other people. But this is the first time that Goku, I think, really goes into like a flight-like state where he's like, I don't know.
Fight or flight.
Yeah.
John Myers, where was the Galactic Patrol men stopping these guys? Yeah, where were they?
They were scared of them. They were terrified of them. They were terrified of the Saiyans, and they were also terrified of Frieza.
Yeah, so but if only they had Mirrors back then. If they had Mirrors in their ranks, they'd have nothing to worry about.
True. It's true.
Yeah. Triton says, great way to start the Z era. Well, remember that there wasn't even supposed to be. When Toriyama was first writing this, it wasn't like, okay, this is a new era. It was, I'm going to just tell the next part of the story and go back. But I actually think that I like the fact that Toriyama threw so much at the story, because there's only so far they could go. Like, we've already got the battle for the world. You might as well bring in aliens, because why the fuck not? You know what I mean? Like, there's aliens in Dr. Slump. It ain't like Toriyama didn't. You realize that Toriyama's second ever manga contribution in his career was a Star Wars parody in 1978. Toriyama was a sci-fi comedy writer years before Dragon Ball. That's true. It's just that now we have it in Dragon Ball. There's nothing wrong with that. The dub had Krillin wish for 17 and 18 to become human, and Shenron couldn't do it. What did Krillin say in the Japanese? Very similar. They wish for them to become humans, but they already are humans. So instead, he wished for the bombs to be disabled. So that was you know, and look right here, bro. I'm getting some Star Wars vibe from the Saiyans conquering planets sold to the highest bidder. We just talked about that, brother. Toriyama was a massive fan of Star Wars.
Yeah.
His first big manga was, remember, Torishima was going to hire him. Torishima was like, look, you have a lot of talent, but I can't do a Star Wars parody because it has to be an original work. And that's when Toriyama had to come up with, I think it was Wonder Island 2, I think it was called, or something like that. It was Wonder Island 2.
Yeah.
This is pre-Dr. Slump. This is like 19, 20-year-old Toriyama. This is mad early. So he's over here. Picture it, Kakar. Imagine wiping out an entire planet with your bare hands. Doesn't that make your Saiyan blood stir? And he's like, no, I'm not going to help you kill innocent people. What are you, stupid? And that's when, again, this is why when people say they should bring the Saiyans back. No, most of them were dicks. And a lot of them are really weak by now. Let's stick with the ones we got. We got Goku, we got Vegeta, we got Broly. They're all lovable. They're all huggable. I don't know why someone's calling me in the middle of the stream, bro. Oh, this is a prank caller. Or not a prank caller, a solicitor, whatever.
Not only that, but most people who say bring back the Saiyans completely ignore the life or death system in Dragon Ball as well. Like, they ignore the fact that a lot of the Saiyans would probably be reincarnated or their souls are already processed, you know. So
yes, I got a phone call, bro, and I got an office number and I got my cell right here, but my cell can be turned off. So Pota says, I assume that the planet Vegeta and Nappa were introduced on was the planet they were having trouble with, but they were basically screwing with him, saying pull your weight or else. So he's basically saying the planet that we see them in when we first see them, which is in this volume, I think, that is, yeah, maybe. I mean, that's as viable of a theory as it could be. So
yeah.
So this whole thing is the reason why we're spending a lot of time on this, because this is very important, because this would shape the rest of the series. I mean, there's no question that the introduction of Saiyans, of the Saiyajin, changed the entire complexion of the series. I love all forms of Dragon Ball, Z and pre-Z. I just want all the fans to love everything and to understand everything. That's why this channel even exists, is to help people understand everything. So now is where Raditz says, okay, well, I'm going to do a power move, which is I'm going to kidnap your son. Goku's like, fuck you over my dead body. And Raditz is like, exactly. Bam! Muay Thai knee right to Goku's. Unless they hit him in the balls right there, but it was more to his stomach. Goku is feeling that hit, my friends. He has never been hit that hard, including by Piccolo. Down he goes. Gohan freaks out. Uncle Raditz going to take you. We're just going to go have playtime.
Yeah, so and there was a panel, we skipped it, but it's okay. There is a panel where Raditz talks about how he's shocked that Goku's like not surprised, like excited to kill people.
Yeah, and right here. We talked about it. It's right here.
Yeah, and that's another way of the series basically explaining to you the source of Goku's excitement in combat as well. Is like it's basically taking that like that need to like murder and pillage and do violent things, which again comes from our survival instincts and our ego, but taking that and purifying it through the use of martial arts, which is very, very important. A lot of people overlook that about like, you know, Goku's development. They just think about his nature as an earthling and all this stuff. They use those terms, but they don't think about the implications for that in terms of Goku as a martial artist as well. So,
Lord Mike, thanks for joining us. He's at work right now. Make sure you don't get caught. Well, unless you're allowed to. I used to have jobs where I was allowed to, you know, I used to work a security job. And if you work a security job, they don't care as long as you keep an eye out on things.
You know what that reminds me of?
I used to play video games and shit.
This is so random, but it reminds me of that scene in Family Guy where Peter is like a night guard for George Harrison, and George Harrison gets murdered while he's watching Charles in Charge. You remember that? That's so funny, bro.
That's when Family Guy was funny, bro. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Raditz basically says this. He says, I'll give you a full day. And he basically tells him you need to kill 100 human bodies. You have to. Raditz tells Goku, I'll make it simple. You murder 100 innocent humans and stack up the bodies and bring them to me, or I'm going to kill your son. What a nice guy. He sure needs to be resurrected, doesn't he, Jordan?
Yeah.
So there you go. What an asshole, bro. People must have forgotten. Masako X has brainwashed people. Masako X's version of Raditz is a fun version, but the real Raditz from the manga was a dick. It's kind of like how you have those like weird storylines where Joker's a good guy sometimes, you know, those Elseworld storylines. But if you read the canon Batman, whether it be the original comic or even some of the other offshoots, he's the worst, most vile character ever. Raditz legitimately wants Goku to prove himself by killing 100 people for no fucking reason.
Yep.
You know? Chapter 198, An Enemy in Common. I love that art right there. The two former rivals of the previous arc and the new enemy. And this is the part where basically Raditz says, get fucked. He leaves. They're over here saying, you know, you're supposed to be a warrior, but you're using a kid as a hostage. That's what the word warrior has a lot of definitions. So, yeah. And basically, Raditz is over here threatening to kill his friends too, but he's going to leave. And then, now, this was not in the anime. Well, it was, but it was edited differently. In the manga, they're already showing Piccolo listening, but in the anime, it was like a shock reveal where you hear his voice, which was cool.
Yeah.
And then Piccolo was hearing the entire thing, watching the entire thing go down. See you tomorrow, Kakarot. And then he flies off with the boy. And then he's over here like, no, fuck this. Kintoon. And they're all like, don't you go fight him alone. Don't you go fight him alone. But he's like, no, we can go. And then Goku's like, yeah, but you two have died already. In the Piccolo arc, you both were killed. And then Goku's like, if I can grab his tail, that'll be his weakness, because that was Goku's weakness. Even though the thing is, Goku trained his tail in the original Dragon Ball. It's weird to me that that he didn't think that maybe Raditz trained his.
I think it's because he had to be encouraged by Grandpa Gohan to do it. And Raditz doesn't have a Grandpa Gohan, so he probably just assumes that, you know, because he had to be pushed to do it, that Raditz would probably have to be pushed to do it too, you know.
Damn, bro. This super chat this might be one of the best super chats we've gotten in a long time. He says, so beating on Goku's best friend wasn't enough for Raditz. He had to assault his own brother, kidnap Gohan, his own fucking nephew. What's Raditz gonna do next? Take Gohan to P. Diddy's white party? Damn, bro.
I guess that's one way to top it. I don't know.
Bro, Justin is a very generous person, and we appreciate him for his generosity. But just like the Saiyans, he's got a dark side to him, bro. He's, you know, and I'll be honest with you. I would rather you be dark and show me your dark side than be fake.
Yeah.
Because too many YouTubers on this platform, many of them I used to be friends with, are very good at being the nice guy. Oh, guys, I love you and this and that. And, you know, and I say I love you to the audience as well, but they sort of are these, you know, they pretend that they're good people and they're virtuous when really they're pieces of shit behind the scenes. A lot of them are fake. In fact, most of them are fake. I'd rather somebody be an asshole to me and at least be real than be fake.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that's why, like, there's been times where I've told people to get fucked on streams, and it's like people will say that I'm mean, which I have been in the past, but it's like I'd rather be real, you know, than not.
Yeah.
So, anyways, let's continue on. They're trying to figure out what to do. They're like, we can distract him, grab the tail. We did see this in the Sparking Zero What If. So there are a lot of what ifs here. And this is where, again, Goku's like, yeah, the dragon can't grant the same wish twice, which is a new thing that we didn't know before. You know, it's funny. I had a guy hit me up. Speaking about the whole real thing, I had a guy hit me up in the DMs recently who's like, I watch a lot of YouTubers. You're the only one who talks like a real person. I'm like, you know, like because I talk like I'm a real. I don't fucking speak like I'm fucking trying to rewrite Shakespeare, bro. I talk like a regular guy.
You sound more educational in some of your videos than others, but there's nothing wrong with that.
I do, but it's still me. Like
Yeah,
it's still 100% me. I don't have writers.
Yeah.
So this is the first ever caveat for Shenlong. Well, except for the whole 1 wish a year thing. I don't know if you count that. Bro, somebody in this Dino Fury dude brought up Miss Swanson from fucking. You know who that is, right? Remember from Mad TV? Yeah. She looking like a man. Yeah,
of course.
Yeah. Yeah. So Goku's like, or Krillin's like, I'll never get a girlfriend at this rate. And then this is where they're going to use the Dragon Radar to find Gohan, even though Goku can sense him. It's mostly because of the fact that they want to be able to find Gohan without Goku using any energy. Then suddenly a voice is heard, and it's Piccolo. And then at the first thing they're thinking is, oh my God, this dude Raditz just came in and kicked Goku, and this guy's about to finish the pieces or pick up the pieces, finish us off. What's funny about this though is I think it's funny is that in the dub and this is one of the good things about the Ocean dub when Piccolo goes to train Gohan, he's like I'll take the boy, and then Krillin goes, you'll just gobble him up, and then Piccolo goes, are you nuts? Yeah. Are you nuts? Yeah, that was Scott McNeil being wacky and Terry Clayson being wacky. Okay, so and then here's and then Goku's like, wait, you two know each other? And he's like, well, we had our little run-in. He's like, you don't have a prayer against him. I'm the best shot you have. So Piccolo is the one to actually pitch them working together. It's not Goku, it's the villain pitching it, saying the only way we could beat this guy is if we beat him. He's like, we'll fight together, but once we take care of him and his two friends, you'll be next, and this time I'll beat you for certain. Now, when he says his two friends, did Raditz already mention the other? Oh, yes, he did mention, but he didn't know they were coming, so I guess that's what he was saying. Yeah. And then he's saying, whether your son dies, I don't care about that. He's in the way of world domination. So the enemy of my enemy is my friend, and off they go. That's a great panel right there. So and I love that shot.
I love that it takes Piccolo being desperate not to die for him to first start working with Goku. I think that's awesome. It really goes back to what I was saying earlier. Like, despite the fact that most of these characters are inherently evil, they still want to live. And the amount of things that they're willing to do to continue living way outweighs the amount of stuff that they would do otherwise. And you could see that here firsthand. This is a great example of that.
Yeah. And I love that panel. And then we are on to the next chapter, 199, Unexpected Strength. This is basically, it starts with Goku. Well, this is the end of the last chapter where they're over here like, I hope that these guys work together and, get it done. So then we have chapter 199. We're reading right to left. There's a classic scene right there. The anime did such a great job showing that. Goku's kind of leading the way, and there's the big crater. Gohan is crying nonstop. So he does the very based thing and puts him inside of the Saiyan spacecraft, which I know we already know the Journey to the West. I'm gonna let you get to it, bro, because it's coming. The Journey to the West homage coming up here. And then he's like, wait a minute, there's a power level of 710. And then he's like, the kid? No, the scouter must be malfunctioning. Same thing that the Frieza Force said when they sense Vegeta's power. They're like, this thing's broken. There's no way Vegeta's this strong. And I like how they do that because it just shows how incompetent they are. Instead of learning how to really sense ki, you're going to be like, this thing's broken. Was Toriyama trying to tell us that we rely too much on technology, bro? Was that what he was trying to say?
Maybe.
So here they come. And this is where Raditz realizes, okay, there's more than one person coming after me here, and it's both of them. But for a child, even a Saiyan, to have a reading of 710, it could be my scouter broken after all. So because he tested out on the other two, and it matches. So here they are. Classic, just great art from Toriyama. Seeing these two standing side by side after they just had a battle that nearly took both of their lives, where Piccolo broke every bone in Goku's body and Goku knocked Piccolo out for several minutes, is pretty great.
Yeah.
And it was the last arc, but I mean, it wasn't that long ago. So now Raditz is like, okay, why are you here to take it back? Oh, disobeying your own brother? As far as I'm concerned, I don't have a brother. It's like people forget this line right here, bro. As far as I'm concerned, I don't have a brother.
They definitely do.
They should bring Raditz back to life and teach him Super Saiyan forms, though. I don't understand, bro. I don't understand. All right, so now we discussed the weighted clothing thing that both Goku and Piccolo used to train, which we're seeing here. And this was dropped later on in the series.
Yeah, I think
Raditz
strong. It's unnecessary.
It's unnecessary. Yeah, the gravity training became the thing then because it was like the weighted clothing, except much, much, much better. Yeah. And weighted clothing is a very real concept. It's resistance training. It's high intensity resistance training. It is real. It's like training underwater. Training underwater is really good cardiovascularly, bro. Like I tell some of my friends who are really overweight that if you have trouble like getting on a treadmill or whatever, go into the water like a swimming pool. Not only does the water naturally cool you down, make you feel refreshed again, but it's actually got enough resistance to make your muscles stronger. So it's very real.
I really like the idea that Raditz is treating Goku the way he is, not just because of like his pride as a Saiyan or whatever, but also because for a fact that Vegeta constantly held it over Raditz's head that he was more elite and more like superior to him as a Saiyan. So this is almost like Raditz getting all that out of his system on somebody else. You know what I mean?
Vegeta big brothered him, so Raditz gonna big brother him.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So Goku and Piccolo prepare. Here comes Raditz, a double elbow to the back. That's from Dragon Ball Z Episode 3. They bounce like, oh, he's so fast. Oh, now he's actually fighting serious. What are we gonna do? That might keep you alive for a few minutes while I start attacking you seriously. And then they're like, wait a minute, he didn't have this kind of strength. And then Goku's like, I got to get his tail, and then he says, the two other Saiyans are even stronger than me. Dun, dun, dun. Then it's like, well, now what are we going to do? And that's the end. Chapter 200, nothing up my sleeve. So, and this stream may go a little bit longer than some of the ones we've done before because of the extra talk of like the switch over to Z or whatever. Yeah. And like everything, all this backstory. So, again, the world's strongest team versus Raditz. Basically here is just them threatening us, and then Goku's like, yeah, well, you can back it up. You are pretty strong. And he's over. Yeah. And this is the line right here.
Yeah. So instead of he's like, you must be excited. He's like, no, I'm actually, and the line's actually different in the Viz translation. He talks about how he's terrified, but like basically it's the same thing. This is the first time that Goku's ever been like freaking out, essentially. Like he honestly does not think that he can come out on top. There's a degree of confidence that he's lost here.
Why does this guy say 8 years ago in universe when I said the fight was 5 years? Where did this fucking 8 years after Dragon Ball shit start, bro?
I don't know, dude.
We've been saying 5 years from the beginning of the stream, like unless he's being sarcastic.
Maybe, I don't know. But
I don't know. He might be being sarcastic. So Justin says seeing Goku team up with Piccolo is insane considering Piccolo's father was his arch enemy. Oh, he's responding to that. I see.
Oh, yeah. And it's even
the
more
Demon King Piccolo arc. The Demon King Piccolo arc was 8 years prior. Yes,
it's even deeper than that because, Goku is learning to be more like Piccolo, right? Like he needs to be learning to be more like Piccolo. That's something that they're playing on here, and Piccolo needs to learn to be more like Goku. So they're feeding off of each other in that sense. Like the parallels that each character represent, they serve a sort of balance that this situation calls for, right?
Right, yeah, and that's something that Vegeta would fill in later on, and some else, and also Jiren, Goku, and Jiren. Jiren learned a lot from Goku, and that's something I talked about back when those episode airs, bro. When those episode aired, is when I talked about that. So here, Daddy's here, hang in there, okay? Daddy's gonna save you, like, yeah, and then he's over here, like, don't get the kids' hopes up, you can't save anyone if you're dead, so. Moving on, here comes the big fight, Goku and Piccolo. That's a legendary panel right there. Just back and forth action. This is all great action, bro. Great action. 2-on-1 battle. This is like fucking Phantom Menace, bro. So, 2-on-1, I mean, like the Darth Maul fight. And of course, that would come out 10 years after this, really, is when that movie came out. And then Raditz is the double back kick. And they of course are bouncing right back in. Raditz moves again.
Raditz is kind of a sloppy fighter.
Yeah, he's more of a brawler than a martial artist.
Yeah, but because he's so powerful, it doesn't matter. Like I like that. Like I think that's awesome.
Yeah. And then this part right here is classic. He gets up. He has the high ground, as they say. Does a double ki blast. Goku barely moves out of the way. Piccolo does too, except not entirely, because Piccolo gets blasted. We see that awesome shockwave from far away. Goku's okay. He looks up. Raditz is behind him. Very quick. Kicks Goku. Knocks him on his ass. Goku's down. Raditz is like, see what I mean? You can't touch me. And then Goku's like, Piccolo, are you okay? Nope. He lost an arm. We already know, though, from watching the 23rd tournament, that Piccolo can regenerate his limbs. So it's only a matter of time.
If you watch the 23rd tournament.
Well, we as in people who have been watching with us from the beginning.
Yeah, I'm just saying
this is stream 17.
Yeah, I'm just saying that like there's tons of people who probably didn't catch
Well,
on.
if they didn't, then go back to the first Mangalorian playlist and just hit play and watch it all. If you don't want to read the manga alone or on your own time, you can read it with us.
It's a lot of fun.
It's fun. It's a good time. We don't read every panel, though. So you're going to have to probably read it on your own while following along with us and then pausing every few panels. It's up to you. So somebody said Beast Gohan versus Red Hulk. I don't know. That's a good question. Maybe I'll look into that for you. I need to look into that before I can answer that question. And then this is where Goku says, for once, I'm afraid. I'm out of tricks up my sleeve. And this is where Piccolo says, well, I've been working on a technique just for you.
Yeah, I saw some people in the chat earlier that he wasn't afraid, and I'm just like rolling my eyes.
No, he was afraid.
I had to resist going off there for a minute.
Well, you can go off. It's just, I understand why they would say that, because even against Frieza, Goku was very, very brave because he had got a lot of self-confidence. But this is the first time Goku's entire life has been shook. And he's bleeding already, bro. Look at that. He got a busted up chin.
Yep.
Chapter 201, Piccolo's farewell to Arm. Oh, that's clever. And then they're like, oh, well, whatever plan you have is not going to work. He's like, I have a new technique. And it takes a lot of time to build up the key, but when I hit it, it's going to kill you, keep him distracted. And so this is kind of like what Vegeta would do later on with Goku against Majin Buu. Like Goku has to do his best.
Willing to just kill him. Yeah, like he practices the opposite. It's just like Cobra Kai you were talking about earlier. Like their philosophies are supposed to mirror each other and contrast each other. And it's really cool.
they're supposed to, like Cobra Kai and Miyagi-Do are supposed to contrast each other, and they both end up learning from each other, which is why the best fighters are Miguel and Robbie and Sam, because they learned everything. Well, Miguel and Robbie more than anything, and of course Tori. The less said about her, the better, at least for now. But Iron Dragons are coming, bro. But we'll talk about that. Check out World of Geekdom. I did a video on that already. So I like how this whole thing is so Goku's like laughing, like, oh, this new technique is gonna save my life instead of end it. And then he's like, yeah, I'll use it on you next time. And then Goku's like, yeah, but I'm gonna know about it, and hang in there as long as you can. So Goku steps up, fights in, Makan Kosa pull. So he starts to charge up. Now Goku begins fighting with Raditz one-on-one. He's beginning to charge up the technique. One-arm technique. He doesn't need two arms. And then this fight is going on. Goku's getting pummeled, of course, because he can't fuck with Raditz's speed and power. Gets kicked down. Goku's still in it. Persistent bastard. He's preparing to fire a Kamehameha. His power level's going up. So now he realized that Goku can actually raise his power level. And this is where meanwhile, he's charging. I love how Toriyama is always in the background reminding me of what's going on to defeat Raditz. You know what I mean? Like to prepare the move. And now Raditz is like, wait a minute, this is a plan here. Now Piccolo's hit the 1000s power level. He's at 10, 20, 10, 30. And then Goku fires the blast. Doesn't Piccolo normally say the name when he launches it, not when he's charging it? Not with this move, because in the anime it was the same thing. He fires the Kamehameha, but and then Raditz moves out of the way, but he can move the trajectory of the move. It follows him. Raditz puts his arm out and manages to block it with his hand. So he was able to protect himself. This guy's amazing. That was fun. Now it's my turn. Blast up, and Goku gets hit. He's going down, and he's about to hit Goku. And then Piccolo's like, no, you're the one who's going to die. And that's when he realizes, okay, wait, the technique is ready. 1330. All of this ki is gathering in his fingertips. Yeah, because he can channel it into one body part, which is classic Bruce Lee, Jeet Kune Do style training. And then he's like, they can manipulate their ki at will. Now, remember, all of this is being hurled in the scouter by Vegeta and Nappa. So they all know what's up.
Yeah. So
Piccolo fires the Makanko Sapo, which was purple in the original manga. It was orange in the anime. Chapter 202, a surprise appearance. Goku's hurt. Raditz is about to finish him. And then he's like, try catching this. Makanko Sapo. Fires it again. He does say it twice. Yeah. It comes in. He's like, huh? It's going right at him. But he missed. He hit him right in the shoulder. He hurt his shoulder and knocked a piece of his armor off, but it didn't kill him. And that means that Raditz is very, very fast. Let's take this super chat right here. Justin Sullivan says, it's honestly insane how much Raditz gets made fun of nowadays, but not only was this guy overwhelming Goku, but Goku never defeated Raditz. Well, he did with Piccolo's help, but yeah, not one-on-one. He never did.
Well, the reason people make fun of him is because he never goes through that training arc where he, not just that, but he also completely cowards out to Goku here in just a minute as well.
Well, it's also because he's the first villain, even though he's not the first villain, which goes back to what we were talking about.
Yeah.
So, and then he's like, yeah, you pierced the armor, but that, had that hit me head on, it would have taken me out. So at this point, we know that move can kill Raditz. Like, we know it now. And then he's like, I'll make it quick. And then he's going to say farewell. This is the move that I think they called it in the Ocean dub, keep your eye on the birdie, but I think it's called Double Sunday in the video games. Yeah. But Goku manages to grab him by the tail before he could do it. And then, bam, Goku got what he wanted. He squeezes the tail. And, squeezing a Saiyan's tail is like getting hit in the nuts. It's the same thing. Raditz goes down. And then he's like, Piccolo, get that technique again. And he's like, okay, don't let go this time. Like, I'm going to do it one more time. And then he's like, are you really going to kill your only brother? This is when Raditz starts to, like, manipulate him like the great cowardly heel that he is.
This is basically Raditz basically showing us that his sense of pride is false. So there's a difference between true pride and false pride, right? And this is something this is a distinction that a lot of people don't make here. But Raditz can talk about having the pride of the Saiyans all he wants, but the fact that he is willing to sink to such a low and beg for his life. This is the reason that Vegeta would scoff and laugh and be disgusted at Raditz, because he's basically selling out. His pride is in himself. His pride is in his own life. His pride is in in basically his own benefit, and that's the actual reality, and that's what's known as false pride, because it's not actually about being stoic or having a sense of honor or a sense of discipline. It's actually about just doing whatever wormy thing you have to do to survive, and that's essentially what false pride is, and that's essentially what Raditz is practicing here, and that's the reason he fails.
Yeah, no, and that's, I'm glad you brought that up, because I think the word pride is oftentimes misrepresented even in the real world. Like if you have like a son or like a friend, and your friend or son or whatever passes his class or whatever, you can have pride that I'm proud of my son, like, or I'm proud of you, or I'm proud of what you've done. There's a good pride, there's a bad pride.
Yeah.
The bad pride is the ego-based pride. You can take pride in your work, I think, but ego-based pride is when you think that you're infallible. And that's when pride goes to the next level, when it's like the bad context of evil. I mean, of ego, excuse me. Everyone has an ego. Every human being has an ego. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, it's like that classic situation you see play out in movies countless times, where the villain does pretty, like one of my favorite examples, because these are some of my favorite movies, but Rush Hour. This is like a classic thing that happens in Rush Hour. Like the bad guy will be in disguise, like he will disguise his evil actions, his evil intentions, and he'll be very confident and arrogant through most of the film. And then the second that his life's in danger and his survival
beg for mercy.
Not only will he beg for mercy, but he will do way worse stuff than he would have done before. Like at the end of Rush Hour 2, where he's going to blow up that, Rush Hour 1, where he's going to blow up that little girl. Like, it's people will just do way more horrible things whenever they're desperate like that.
It's like what we talked about when people talk shit on the internet, bro. They throw around racial slurs and homophobic slurs at people. But in real life, you catch one of these motherfuckers, they're not going to say that shit to you. And if they do, oh, no, please, no, please. Like, you play Call of Duty. I used to play Call of Duty on Xbox Live, like Black Ops 2, Black Ops 1. We'd see all kinds of stuff like that. It's just, it's that fake pride, or that sort of, it's very cowardly is what it is. Raditz is a coward because, but it's smart because he's playing into Goku's pure-heartedness. He's like, I'm so sorry, please forgive me. And Piccolo, who was the previous villain, he's like, no, don't trust him. I would know. I'm a bad guy. And then Goku's like, oh, please. And then he lets it go.
Remember, Goku was way outmatched and outnumbered against Raditz, and yet was still willing to give up his life to try and rescue Gohan, which means Goku is an example of what true pride is in this scenario.
And
which is
pure of heart.
Yeah, which is why when you brought up Gohan and like having pride in your kid, Goku also has pride in Gohan. That's part of the reason he's so willing to like sacrifice. He loves him, of course, but he also has a lot of pride in him. So, sometimes it can cause you to do good things out of desperation. So it's not always bad. But in Raditz's case, it's very clear that they're trying to contrast Raditz from Goku in that sense, because despite the fact that Raditz is much more powerful than Goku, he's willing to sell out whatever he has to in order to come out of this situation on top. So
a lot of people, I think, point to Goku letting Frieza live, giving Moro and Cell Senzu being this moment right here as it being stupid. And I will say this, logically, yeah, it is stupid. But when you look at it from Goku's perspective, like, it makes sense, because I think a lot of people would fall for that, because when you're appealing to somebody's good nature, like Goku is so innocent that it makes sense for him to do it. Now, is it dumb? Absolutely. In fact, hold on. It's no different. Yeah, it is what Roshi taught him, but it's no different. Let's use Star Wars as an example. When Palpatine is like, begging for mercy against Mace Windu, and Anakin shows up, and then he's like, and Anakin's like, he must stand trial. And then Mace Windu's like, no, he's too dangerous to be kept alive. And Anakin obviously was wrong. We know why he did it, but it's the try try to appeal to Goku's good nature, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Triton Freeze is right. Goku has made that mistake a lot, and sometimes it like
I don't consider it a mistake because
no, I consider it a mistake now, not so much then. If that makes
I don't
sense.
even consider it a mistake now because Goku perpetually. The thing is like especially with the Moro thing, and this is one of the reasons that I disagree with like the whole Moro thing being bad. Because immediately after Goku gives Moro the sensu, we see an actual example of the fruits of Goku's actions in the past coming in and saving him. So essentially, if Goku didn't practice that same attitude countless times in the past with Piccolo, Buu, Vegeta, everybody, none of those characters would have been there to essentially donate to the Spirit Bomb and have Goku take out Moro. So they simultaneously give you an example of the mistakes that Goku makes whenever he does things like that, while also simultaneously giving you an example of the benefit. And that's the reason that it doesn't bother me, because they immediately give you the payoff to Goku being that way towards everybody else. And they also point out that the difference between Moro and all those other characters is the fact that he refused to train. Like the thing that people like, the thing that Goku
even Frieza learned to train, and look at him now.
Yeah. The thing that Goku normally takes advantage. The reason that Goku is used to this working is because in every single scenario, whenever he runs into a very tough, egotistical, proud person, that person's ego can be used to fuel their need to train, which causes them to start doing good things, which in most cases causes them to become better people. That's something that Goku is used to because he's seen it play out countless times. What makes Moro interesting is the fact that he was the first character who was like, no, I will not train. I do not care. It doesn't matter. Like, he was a coward in the same sense that Raditz is. He was willing to do wormy things to come out on top rather than develop some sense of honor. And I think that that's interesting.
No, and an example that actually correlates with your point. Now, my opinion still stands in that I do think it's Goku's too trusting. Goku's way too trusting, especially with Moro and how evil he was. And I'm going to stand by that. However, to your point, when Goku first sort of went to King Yama and said, can you reincarnate Majin Buu but make him good? That in and of itself was a risk, because that's a very powerful enemy they had just got done defeating, right? However, had that not happened, Oob would not be alive, and Oob would not have been able to donate energy for Goku to actually be able to beat Moro. So that's an example. You have to kind of, the trick to this whole thing of what Jordan's talking about is the only way it's going to make sense is you can't look at the individual decision. You have to look at the entire story. So like,
the outcome.
Is Goku giving Cell a Senzu being a dumb move? By itself, it is. You cannot deny that. This dude is a bad dude. However, the overarching story of Goku's good nature is the reason why Vegeta's still alive, Piccolo's still alive, and they all helped Gohan become, and Goku both all helped shape Gohan into the man he would become to defeat Cell. So
and it's
the thing about Dragon Ball is a lot of micro stories, but there's a big overarching story that people need to look into. Go ahead.
Well, and it's also, I think a lot of people's complaint with that situation is that Goku regressed in some sense, which I don't agree with, because Goku did like try to literally kill Moro in one Kamehameha, like literally like 2 chapters before that. The reason that he was being uncharacteristically like,
well, he was very confident with that UI.
Not just that, his heart was completely calm, which meant that the thing that Goku normally takes advantage of that pushes him into like a survival fight or flight mode, he was completely robbed of. He was forced into a suspended, calm, tranquil nirvana like state. So like, he's going to be, basically the entire purpose of that scene is to highlight and exaggerate Goku's nature as an Earthling in a very, very similar way to how Super Saiyan highlighted and exaggerated Goku's nature as a Saiyan. It's a very, very, very similar thing.
Yeah. No, it is. And it's it's just Goku's character. Like that's how he's going to be.
Yeah, he has a dual
And
nature.
we can sit here as, and this is the truth. As much as we respect Toriyama, we're allowed to sit here and nitpick and criticize shit because unfortunately everybody has a voice.
Yeah.
However, and in and of itself, Goku's decision is a dumb one. However, it's just part of his character. And there's been a lot of protagonists who have made dumb moves in the past.
In the logical world of survival of the fittest, Darwinistic mentality, Goku is one of the most illogical characters in the entire series.
Not just that, but let's look at Batman. Think about Batman for a minute. Shouldn't Batman have killed Joker forever ago, and yet he never does? Joker keeps breaking out over and over again. Is Batman dumb? Well, here's the problem, Jordan. Every time Joker breaks out, more and more people die. So unfair, but it's also part of his character.
Well, Goku really doesn't have that problem because of the Dragon Balls, though. So he's got
true. He's got a thing
going on than Batman.
And he's friends with Whis now, who can bring you back to life with his staff. We don't even need the balls anymore, bro. Right. So Goku lets go of the tail. Raditz gets up and elbows him, and he's like, "You idiot!" And Piccolo tried to warn him. And so Raditz steps on Goku, not the balls, but a little bit above it. And then he's like, damn it, Goku. Even Piccolo was like, fuck. Because Piccolo has not gone good yet. This Piccolo is teaming up with Goku, not because of the sun or because he knows he cannot take over the world with Raditz being alive. He's planning on, if Goku and Piccolo killed Raditz and Goku had survived and there were no other Saiyans coming, Piccolo would have killed Goku immediately after. I believe that. The good side of Piccolo did not come out until Gohan, which we're going to talk about in future streams. So here, see, look, and Raditz such a dick, bro. This puts heat on Raditz too. I didn't think you were stupid enough to fall for such a trick. I was right. You're too soft to be one of us. You know, and then he's about to freaking die. He's about to get killed. Piccolo is out of juice. If I shoot one, he'll dodge it. Then we have the big secret weapon. Kablam! Out of the pod comes the boy wonder, and that takes us to chapter 203, Goku's last.
Yeah, so this is the Wukong reference we were talking about.
This is we're gonna get to it in just a minute. This is Gohan in the car. This is Gohan.
Yeah, and you can tell Toriyama loved drawing that too.
Yes, he did. But there's a point I'm making to this. This is the first time that Toriyama has drawn Gohan by himself in a cover page. That should already tell you that Toriyama was already thinking about how important Gohan would be to the story. Yeah. So tell us about Journey to the West and Gohan bursting out of the.
We talked about this a little bit last stream, but essentially
we've talked about it on Saiyuki as well. But go ahead.
But essentially, this is a reference to whenever Sun Wukong bursts out of the stone egg. It's a very, very common thing that they show in media is him like bursting out of the stone egg. But what makes this particular instance interesting is this is the first time we ever see Gohan's Saiyan nature come out. So the fact that his Saiyan nature is being revealed in conjunction with him busting out of the ship is very, very relevant because essentially it's Toriyama's way of telling you kind of what he's going to do with Gohan's character. It's like a backwards development to Goku. Like, whereas Goku is like this calm, mild-mannered martial artist who always tries to keep his head straight, Gohan is going to like give in to his aspect of his nature in an exaggerated sense. And that's kind of what separates him from Goku in that sense.
And we've always talked about the whole the rage boost and all that. So this is a topic that I have discussed a number of times, even before I knew you, because one of the things that you did was bring the Saiyuki Journey to the West philosophy and kind of tie it all together. But the reason as to why Gohan even has that rage. Now, obviously, Saiyans also have anger. We've literally seen Vegeta rage out before. We've seen these things. Trunks too, and Broly. But Gohan is different because he's a half-breed. And because Gohan is human and he was born on Earth, he has a subtle subconscious connection to human emotion that Goku and Vegeta don't have. He's also just raw potential. Gohan is the definition of raw potential. At this point, Gohan has no training. He's never even thrown a punch in his fucking life. This is just pure emotion from him being a human and a Saiyan.
Well,
and like I've talked about before, wait. When people say, how can hybrid Saiyans be stronger? It's because there's that human connection and that human emotion tied into the Saiyan biology. That's why Gohan is like that. That's why his anger is a weapon.
Well, what's really, really extremely interesting about that is, so what separates Wukong from his character at the beginning of the story versus the end of the story is at the beginning of the story when his fight or flight kicked in, it was always because he was selfish. It was always because he was in a situation where he was desperate, and it would kick in because he thought about his life over everyone else's at first. And then he gains a sense of empathy after becoming the Monkey King, and what gave him potential as a Buddha was the fact that his sense of empathy would fuel his demonic nature rather than his selfishness. So this is very, very similar to what the Saiyans take advantage of in terms of like what makes them more powerful within a selfish context. They normally use this sort of effect, this like adrenaline-like effect, to survive in a situation where their own lives are in danger. It's a very, very, very selfish thing. But because Gohan is empathetic and he has the nature of an Earthling, he can use that empathy to fuel that aspect of himself and use it as a weapon for good. Like
that's why 16's speech was so powerful. But geekdom, Gohan and 16 weren't friends, and it's like it has nothing to do with that, bro. It has nothing to do with them being friends. 16 said the right things to Gohan to trigger him.
Yeah, Gohan's empathy, his sense of empathy is what more than anything fuels his rage, his fight or flight reflexes. Whereas like somebody like Vegeta or the other Saiyans, it's their own life, their own desperate needs that normally feeds that aspect.
And let me also add to what I just said about Gohan and 16. Toriyama is such a brilliant writer that the most ironic thing about 16's speech to Gohan is that 16 is the only person who was artificially made completely. He's not a fucking natural human like 17 and 18. He's not a Saiyan. He's not anything but just a robot. And even he understands Gohan. So I think that's some of Toriyama's best writing. I know that people, again, it goes back to what you and I are always talking about. People always say it's not that deep. And I'm going to quote Sean Schemmel, because Sean Schemmel said this to me. When people say that I'm overthinking, I say, fuck you, you're underthinking. That's what it is. It's not about, this is not some kind of like fucking like, college thesis here. But I love the irony Toriyama throws into his stories. Justin says, Raditz has taken Goku's act of mercy for granted and broke his ribs. God almighty, I don't even think having Raditz or Dr. Phil could help him control his abusive tendencies. Yeah, bro, but a lot of folks hate Dr. Phil lately. I don't, but I've seen some people hate on him because of political reasons. He still has helped people. Xavier says, Modern Warfare 3 and Black Ops 1 and 2 is peak. Yes. Modern Warfare 2 and 3 and Black Ops 1 and 2 are the best. To this day, I think. My opinion. So the original Modern Warfare 2 and 3, not the new ones. I haven't played the new ones yet, but the originals. Have you played those games, Jordan?
Yes, of course.
Oh, okay. You know how awesome that Black Ops story is. Mason, and fucking in Cuba and shit with Castro, like the first level is great. All right, so Gohan breaks out of the ship. And he's mad and stop hurting my dad. Of course, 1307 power level. Gohan, first time we're seeing his anger, he fires it. Raditz gets hit in the chest by Gohan. He's actually dazed. I have to explain all this in the stream on Saturday because we're going to go through this again. So he goes down, or he doesn't go down. He's dazed. Gohan goes down. He's awake. He sees that Goku's down. Goku's like, what the hell was that? And Piccolo was like, what the hell was that? Raditz smacks Gohan away. In the original Ocean dub, they cut it to where he went like this, then Gohan's just rolling over. I guess abusing kids. I understand cutting that. because you don't want to see kids
And
getting
it
abused.
is brutal to see Gohan get smacked like that.
He's 4, bro. Like, there are some edits that I understand, but I think most Dragon Ball fans need to watch it uncut just to experience the show at its purity. That was the whole point of all this. So while this is happening, right, this is where Raditz says, that kid's stronger than you. You know, there's people on Facebook who are debating Kid Goku from Dragon Ball versus Kid Gohan. And I'm just sitting there like, how can you be this bad of a power scaler when there are fucking 9-year-olds that figured this out, bro?
Yeah, bro. Like, he literally surpassed all of the series for a split second. So, yeah.
No, dude, there's one I saw where it was Majin Vegeta against Super Saiyan 2 Gohan from the Cell Saga. Who's stronger? And I was like, this, because Majin Vegeta was not winning the poll. And I'm like, fuck, bro. Like, y'all really don't. I'm not going to be mean, bro. It's just weird to me. Like, I like making videos explaining things, but there are just some things that
they don't even need to play.
Yeah, that's why my shorts are so simple. Like, the shorts that I make on the channel, bro, are usually like dumbed down versions of videos because I can get that out in a minute. Who's stronger, Kid Goku or Kid Gohan? I wonder.
Yeah.
So Goku grabs him in a full Nelson. It's kind of a full Nelson. A full Nelson is where you have the other guy's arms up. So it's a version of a full Nelson. He's trapped. Goku needs to put his arms up and lock. Watch me on camera. He has to lock his arms like this to do the full Nelson. So it's not a full Nelson, no pun intended. And now Piccolo charges up again. Now this guy, Raditz, is trying to beg for mercy again. Goku's not going to fall for the same trick twice. And Piccolo's over here smiling because he's like, ha, I get to kill Raditz and Goku. Today's my lucky day. And I can regrow this arm. Let me go, little brother. Forget her. Nope, you're not going to fool me twice. You know what I'm saying? I love it, bro. And now brace yourself. Makanko Sapo. No! Very, very awesome scene. That technique rips through both of them and the armor. And then we have Dragon Ball Chapter 204, Sayonara Goku. This art from Toriyama with the shadow was used for the title card of Dragon Ball Z Episode 5. Or maybe it was 6. It was 5 or 6. We're going to talk about that this weekend. This Saturday on Twitch, we're watching these episodes, Dragon Ball Z 4, 5, and 6. So Piccolo fires the Makanko Sapo. It goes through Raditz, goes through Goku. They are both in extreme pain. Blood, but not as bloody as the Z anime. Kai toned it down, but the Z anime had a lot of blood. I mean, a lot. They were both, this is a fatal blow to both of them, though. I can't believe I was just done in one on a miserable planet. He's all fucked up. And of course, he starts puking up blood. And now he's like, Goku won't be dead for long. This planet, we have these things called Dragon Balls. This is one of those, go Piccolo, don't tell him anything. But Piccolo didn't know any better. Once gathered, they can grant any wish and even bring the dead back to life. Damn him, I'm glad you told me. You see, everything that happened today has been transmitted to my 2 partners deep in outer space. They certainly heard everything, but by now, and will be arriving here soon. They'll wipe out everyone on this planet, including you, and they'll no doubt bring me back to life with those Dragon Balls. Yeah, right. But what's funny,
I love this because, look, this is amazing. Like, people, that line right there is a very, very, very underappreciated line. Because Goku, due to his upbringing on Earth and all the decisions that he had made in the past, which are the exact opposite of what Raditz wanted him to do, are the entire reason that Goku gets to survive this situation and Raditz doesn't. Because if Goku had acted as Raditz, and he was in a situation where he got killed, he would never get brought back to life. And because Raditz has so much faith in what the Saiyans are, he has a false perception of what the Saiyans themselves would do for him. And I find that, I love that. I think that's awesome.
Monologuing never works in your favor is what Diddley Squat said, and he's kind of right about that. Justin Sullivan says, and now Raditz has struck his nephew. Guy would fit right in with the folks over in Alabama. Now you're burying the whole state of Alabama, bro. I can't blame you, but you are burying the whole state of Alabama. JB, Prince Vegeta from YouTube is from there. So Goku's all fucked up. And he
one
says
really interesting thing I could point out here that I think Toriyama was thinking about, despite the fact that people, they're skeptical about the Journey to the West stuff. So the character that represents basically the evil nature of Sun Wukong, like incarnate, like the incarnate.
Vegeta, right?
Well, it's the 6-eared macaque in Journey to the West, but the ability that they highlight the most that he has is that he can hear everything in the universe, which I find
pretty good. That's a pretty good ability, bro.
Yeah, which I find interesting because this is like a sci-fi equivalent to that, because they're all across, they're on the other side of the galaxy, and yet they can hear everything that's being said here, and I just find that very interesting.
And remember, the conversation was also being heard by Frieza, but we didn't know that yet. So I'm saying we didn't know that. Toriyama didn't even know that yet. Yeah. So Raditz tells them in 2 years, you may have or in 1 year, my 2 friends are coming. You may have beaten me, but they're coming. I will tell you a quick story. When I first saw these episodes in Dragon Ball Z as a little kid, I would have been, I think, 12, maybe 13. I don't remember exactly. Maybe I was 11, but I think I was 12 or 13, right? I was so excited because that is a way right there to get – Toriyama had such a talent for basically being a suspenseful writer, because we just saw this fight that killed the main character and the previous villain barely survived. And now he's saying, well, guess what? There's another set of guys coming who make me look like a pussy. And so how could you not be excited as a kid or as an adult to say, what the fuck is going to happen now?
Exactly.
That's the art. That's why I say that as much as Dragon Ball Super and Dragon Ball Daima have and will have great moments, you just can't fuck with the old shit, bro. You can't Dragon Ball and Z are levels above. What were you saying?
Can't replicate the experience of that. You can't replicate the experience of seeing these stakes play out for the first time. You can't.
Yeah, and that's why it's weird that there were people saying, and this is not a bad thing, but it sort of is a bad thing. Oh, I got into Dragon Ball with Super, and now I'm watching OG, and I'm like, well, I'm glad you're watching it, but damn, it's so far ahead of everything.
It started with Daima, bro. I mean,
yeah, and Daima, one of the projects behind Daima is to bring in a bunch of new fans. That's why we have the recaps. But then, of course, that begs the question, okay, they're going to bring in new fans. That's fine. Is Toei going to air the old shit on television again? Well, it's possible. Animax has aired OG Dragon Ball Z and GT, so it's possible they will, and I hope they do. I think Dragon Ball Z and GT and Super should be airing on TV nonstop on different channels, because even though they're old shows, there's still an audience who will watch them on TV.
Yeah, and they're relevant to the entire series as a whole. So yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. They are relevant, and I still think that no matter what, the old stuff is still better. It's just better. So this scene with Raditz, so Piccolo just finished them off. They cut it from it in Z, but I love that he fucking finished them off, bro. And then here come the friends. They're like, okay, wait, only one of them still standing. Is it Piccolo? They're all freaked out. Now we go to this planet right here, which looks an awful lot like Demon Realm number 2, does it not?
Yeah, it does look a lot like it, yeah.
Those trees?
Yep.
Sounds like Raditz is dead. Serves him right. How pathetic to think he was killed by fighters with a power levels barely over 1,000.
Yeah,
You can
this is
finish up
this
on this
is a
planet
really
already.
awesome example of what's called space or sci-fi Darwinism. It's essentially like taking like the concept of survival of the fittest and extrapolating it to like more complicated species, like the Saiyans, for example. They look like aliens, they're dressed like aliens, they have that like whole sci-fi aesthetic. But if you look at what they're actually doing, which Yash pointed out a while ago, they're eating some species that they just killed in like a very primal survival of the fittest like manner. And I think that that's really interesting storytelling and really interesting imagery on Toriyama's part, because it's like, this very, very technologically advanced look in terms of the aesthetic of the characters themselves, but the actions that you see them portraying are not technologically advanced or civilized in any way. And I think that's awesome.
Well, yeah, I agree. I think somebody asked me recently, and I try to remember who it was like, do you think Vegeta would eat the Namekians? And I'm like, I don't think he eats. Like I said, he wasn't a cannibal. I don't think he eats. I don't think Vegeta and Nappa eat humans or eat like Namekians or anything like that. These bug creatures, though, I mean, I don't want to be gross, guys, but there's lots of cultures in this planet in the real world, like in Africa and some parts of Asia, that consider bugs a delicacy. So I think, yeah, and Xavier, that's right, it was you. Yeah, I don't think that Vegeta and Nappa just eat anything. I think that specifically these animals, these bug things they eat, but I don't think it's every
In a
like
survival
humanoid.
situation, they probably would eat anything.
Well, that's true. Yeah, if they had to cook a human, they probably would.
That could be said about anybody or anything, though. So,
which that reminds me, have you ever eaten any of those weird foods?
by weird foods, do you mean just exotic meats?
Bugs and things like that. Like
Oh yeah. I remember when I was in elementary school, they had like a short program where they brought us like fried crickets and chocolate.
That's fucking disgusting, bro.
And like weird stuff like that. Yeah, I did try it. It was just very, very salty. It basically just tasted like you were just eating the breading, like salty breading, like over the meat. But it was just like a crunchy, salty, it just tasted like crunchy, salty breading on meat. Like it wasn't anything gross at all.
Mecha J said, pretty sure Goku ate a bug during his adventure with Bulma. I mean, brother, if you get on a motorcycle, bro, and you drive it with no helmet with your mouth open, you'll eat a few bugs, bro. Remember in Dumb and Dumber? I had a big June bug on the way over here, so I'm full. Yeah, I'm just letting people know I'm not really big on eating.
She's like, I'm not eating bugs, bro.
Yeah, I don't eat bugs, bro. I will eat sushi, like some certain types of raw fish. I'll eat maybe rare meat, not super rare, but like medium rare. I never eat anything like that. I don't like crickets. Frog legs are good though. Frog legs are good, and rabbit is good, but nah, man, fuck that. I would say I have a pretty diverse palate, but Koreans sometimes eat dog and cat, and it's just, nah, man.
No thanks.
No thanks. So now Vegeta's talking about the Dragon Balls. Like, hey, this is, and then he's like, are we gonna bring him back to life? He's like, is that a joke? We're better off without him. Like, fuck that. And then he's like, what if we get eternal life so we don't ever get old? Well, that's a good wish. And he's like, yeah, we reign supreme. And then they get on their ships, and there they are. And then he's like, they're still talking though on their ships. One thing that bothers me, the power of Kakarot's son is impossibly high for a Saiyan child. Now, in the anime version, they had this conversation on the planet still. Right. Yeah. And if you remember in the anime version, Vegeta had red hair and a different colored armor. And that's because the anime got the colors wrong. There were people who were like, I thought it was because they were on that planet. No, bro, a planet doesn't change the way your skin color is, bro. It doesn't work that way. All right. It was a mistake.
If the sun has a different spectrum, it can work that way, but that's not the case here.
That's not the case. That's more like, you're thinking more like Outer Limits type shit than Dragon Ball. But Vegeta, they had this conversation on the planet, not in space, but it's the same conversation about Kakarot's son. Maybe the reading was wrong. No, it couldn't have been wrong. Not with the damage Raditz sustained from that one attack. It seems that making Saiyan and Earthling blood begets a powerful hybrid, a Super Saiyan. We could spawn a flock of them ourselves and build ourselves a new Saiyan empire. It's like, don't be foolish. Do you really want a bunch of ungrateful brats running around with greater powers than our own?
Okay, so this
is an
so
important, very important, and people seem to forget that this conversation.
Yeah, because now it becomes more important when Frieza shows up. But look, so what makes this extremely interesting to me specifically is the fact that what Vegeta just said about the Super Saiyans, the hybrids that they...
Yeah, this was not the Super Saiyan that we got later. That was... People think this is foreshadowing, and it can be retconned to being foreshadowing, but it's not about the legend. This is before the legend came about.
So Vegeta saying that about the Saiyans, the hybrid Saiyans, the hypothetical hybrid Saiyans that they could create, mirrors what Frieza thought about the Saiyans. And that's something that a lot of people overlook about Vegeta. That's like a super Frieza-esque thing for him to say. Like it really goes to show just like how similar Vegeta and Frieza are as characters. Like it really exaggerates it, because he's essentially like, you know, if there's any chance that they're going to betray us at all, it's not worth it, you know, which I think
right. And also, this is another reason as to why Vegeta has no interest in bringing back Planet Vegeta. And I've talked about this, I don't know how many times, but we always have new people. And so, you know, the channel is always going to have new people coming in. When Vegeta talks about, like, I'm the Saiyan of Planet Vegeta, the prince or whatever, he's not talking about how Vegeta does not want to rule over the Saiyans. That's never, ever been part of his character.
By him. Yeah.
Yeah, he doesn't. This idea people have that Vegeta wants to bring back the Saiyan planet, during this time period, he straight up tells Nappa, we're not going to repopulate the species. And later, when he does have a son with Bulma, by that point, at the end of the Cell Saga, he gives up on fighting for a temporary time, and he fucking he gets comfortable with his wife and kid, and so he cares about Bulma and Trunks more than bringing back a bunch of Saiyans. He's got his kid. He had a second kid later on, Bra/Bulla. So, I mean, you know, that's all fine and dandy. Vegeta never cared about bringing back Planet Vegeta. When Vegeta refers to himself as the Prince of all Saiyans, he's talking about it from a base of class. He thinks that because he is a higher class than Kakarot, that he should be stronger than Kakarot. That's why he's so obsessed with surpassing Goku, because his whole life, his daddy programmed him into thinking that because he's of the royal bloodline, he's above Goku. Meanwhile, this fucking bastard scavenger weakling Goku surpasses Vegeta over and over and over again. That's why the Vegeta speech at the end of the series, with him saying you're number one, is so powerful. People just don't get it. And it's like, dude, it's not about like Vegeta submitting or saying he's not going to train anymore. It's not about that. It's about the fact that Goku became number one in spite of being labeled a low-class warrior.
Yeah, and more importantly, you know, Vegeta's also disgusted by the Saiyans. Like he straight up just doesn't like them. It's supposed to be, and we see this. We'll talk about this more when we get to the stuff with Vegeta and Nappa later. But it's supposed to be. They make it very, very clear that Vegeta was disappointed with Saiyan society because he didn't think they had the pride that he himself was raised to believe that they should have, and that's another big part of it too.
Yeah. People do kind of get that mixed up a lot. And Vegeta, I want to do a whole character on Vegeta's character arc because a lot of fans don't get it. And I don't think this is really the dub's fault. I think it's just a misunderstanding of Vegeta's character. I think it's just a misunderstanding.
I think people like to humanize and also associate Vegeta with themselves and just jump to conclusions about his intentions.
Yeah, Justin Sullivan says Vegeta's introduction. This is the first introduction of Vegeta ever. Was awesome. I love how he just disregards Raditz as less than nothing. Yeah, which he would do to Nappa in the very same arc later on. But likes the idea of going to Earth to obtain immortality. The guy cemented himself as a compelling character from the start. Yeah, in a way. But I think Vegeta gets more compelling as the series progresses because of his relationship with Goku.
What I like about it is the fact that Goku is introduced to us. The first thing that Goku ever does is whenever he's introduced to us is go on a journey for the Dragon Balls. And Vegeta is the same way, but his motivations are entirely different. So like
entirely selfish.
Yeah, so he contrasts Goku perfectly in that sense. Like I love it.
No, and that's Vegeta has always been a contrast to Goku. That's why their team ups work so well. That's why we have UI and UE. This has been an ongoing thing. It's just how it is. That's why I wonder how Daima is going to handle certain events that happen later on that I'm not going to leak. Guitar, at least not yet. Guitar Noob says Nappa looks like a bald Genghis Khan. I always thought he looked like Bill Goldberg, but not exactly. Hugo Whitey says Raditz was younger than Vegeta, wasn't he? Do you think Raditz had? There we go, more fucking bullshit callers. Bro, it says here Ron DeSantis is calling me, but you know damn well it's not him, bro. I do not have the governor's number, bro. It's probably some fucking company wanting to get me to.
Nah, bro, he needed you for like he really
for Dragon Ball knowledge, bro.
Yeah, something,
bro. No, I'll take a picture of it later, bro. They shit said Ron DeSantis.
Bro, one time I had somebody call me and it said Bruce Wayne. I swear to God.
No, bro. The creepiest one I ever got on caller ID said Illuminati you. I was like, what the fuck? And it was this like ghetto chick, bro. She talked very hood. So he says, do you think Raditz had Goku-like potential to become strong? It's not about the potential, it's about the work. I don't think Raditz would put the work in that Goku would.
No.
That's what it's about, man. Remember, both Raditz and both Vegeta and Goku have a lot of potential because of how hard they train. Raditz was never like them. And that's probably why Vegeta was like, fuck that guy. Like, right. Vegeta's like, we don't need that fucking guy. Even Nappa, I would say Vegeta for a while had like respect for Nappa because Nappa at least is like a guy who would be okay training. Raditz, he probably thought was just a piece of shit. So all the friends show up. Goku's dying, and he's like, oh, we're back with the Dragon Balls. This is where Goku actually dies. And earlier, Xavier asked, and I forgot if it was a super chat or not, if this is more sad than the Cell death. I don't think so, because Piccolo already said they're going to wish him back with Dragon Balls. The Cell death, Piccolo was like, oh, wait a minute. Like,
we can't. Yeah. It's over.
Yeah. He said he didn't want to come back, so it's more sad.
Yeah.
Okay. And then he disappeared, and this is when Piccolo straight up says it's God, it's Kami. He's the one that transported him away. And then here we have the Saiyans on their way. They're going to be arriving in a year. Chapter 205, Warrior in Hell. That's right. We're still not done. This is an extra long stream because there's a lot to talk about, bro. It's the Z era. But we'll get through it faster. So they're over here discussing what they're going to do, and this is where Piccolo says, Piccolo gives Bulma the Scouter, and he's like, learn how to use this, learn how to operate it. And this is where Piccolo puts his clothes back on, and he's like, I'm going to take the boy for training. This is cool because Bulma's a tech whiz.
Takes charge in such a cool way right here. I love it.
Yeah, here he is regenerating his arm. And then he's like, you should start looking for the Dragon Balls immediately, even if Kami's involved. Not even he can bring the dead back to life by himself. Yeah, he's not Whis. But you can leave Goku's son with me. I'll be taking care of him. And then here's the part right here, bro. Wait a minute. You're not planning on eating him, are you? Don't be absurd. But in the dub, he's like, are you nuts? With the same face, bro.
Yeah. He'll just gobble him up.
You just gobble him up. Yeah.
Yeah.
That boy has a tremendous power hidden away, and he'll be an invaluable asset once he gets the proper training. We're going to need him against the two Saiyans who will be here in 1 year. I'm the only one who can give him that training he needs, which is true because he sure as shit ain't going to learn what he needs
Bring
from
out
others.
Gohan's inner demon, bro. It's going to be
Because
awesome.
what'll happen is Krillin and Tien and Yamcha are going to be careful with him because it's Goku's kid. But
Well,
Piccolo's
Piccolo
like,
brings out
no,
his
bro, I'm gonna make you a hard motherfucker. Pause. Go ahead.
Piccolo brings out his demons and Goku tames them. Like that's the
Yeah,
role. That's
Mazoku.
the role that Goku and Gohan serve, or that's the role that Goku and Piccolo's training and their relationship with Gohan serves. Is every time Piccolo fuels the more angry aspect of Gohan's nature and helps him control it, Goku comes behind him and like reminds him of his nature as an Earthling, which we saw in the Cell Saga. So
And Piccolo straight up says, when a year passes, I'm gonna bring him back, but not a day sooner. So that and I love this because this as a reader of Dragon Ball, again, context going back to 1989. Goku has a son now, and his son is being held captive by Goku's mortal enemy. I put some lights on so you can see me better. I'll put the orange one on. His mortal enemy is not going to go take care of Goku's son, and Goku just died. So reading Dragon Ball had to have been such an addiction because I got into Dragon Ball Z, and I was addicted to the show. I mean, the reason why Dragon Ball fans love this show so much is because how easy it is to binge and get addicted to because the story is just so intriguing. Like this is now we have to wait a year to see what happens. But now Toriyama once again expands his lore, like what he's doing with Daima.
This is Taoist lore, right? This is like Taoist heaven, essentially. Like this is another reason when people say that like he quit playing on Journey to the West. You're silly, bro. You're silly.
No, that went on even until Super.
He literally like King Yema is literally like the same deity that Sun Wukong goes to and marks his name out of the book in Life or Death. This is straight up a scene out of Journey to the West. Like straight up.
King Yema, aka Lord Enma Dio, is in Yu Yu Hakusho, and he even looks the same. He's in a number of different like Japanese toku shows. Like the idea of a gatekeeper of the afterlife is old school Asian mythology. Like, it's not like the Christian Judeo-Christian version of like God or Allah to the Muslims, but it's definitely like it's definitely Asian for sure.
Something I want to bring up before I forget because
this is the beginning of Toriyama going into the afterlife.
But I will forget if I don't bring it up now. But this is something I've always found very, very interesting is the fact that if you remember the last conversation that King Piccolo had with Goku was he said, as long as you have emotions, you'll never be able to defeat evil. And what exactly is it that Piccolo does with Gohan? He takes his emotions and teaches him to use them as a weapon to defeat evil. And I think that is so unbelievably interesting. And it really
he teaches him survival.
Yeah, and it sets the precedent for Gohan and Piccolo's relationship, which I think is awesome.
I've said it before and I'll say it again. The Saiyan Saga filler added a lot to this arc. Obviously, Jordan and I are not going to be going through that because that's what we do on Saturdays, and I will be going through it then. But the anime added so many great, fun episodes and fun character building moments for Gohan and Piccolo that the Saiyan arc anime version is like almost flawless. There's a couple of missteps here and there, but it's almost flawless. The manga is still good though. This is where Kami, who is God, is going to a higher deity, which is King Yema. This is the beginning of the God hierarchy and saying we want him to get training from it says, Great Enma Dio-san humbly asking you permit Goku or this man to call upon Kaio-sama to seek out guidance. King Kai is a simplification of Kaio-sama or Lord Kaio, which translates to World of Worlds. Not World of Worlds, Lord of Worlds. And then Kaio-shin is like God of Worlds. Let me get to this super chat from Justin. Goku's death was heartbreaking to watch. Throughout the late 80s and early 90s, we saw protagonists like Optimus Prime and Superman die. That's all true. Goku's death here, especially considering this is so early on, is a tragic. Well, it is and it isn't early on. Remember, this is not the beginning of Dragon Ball. This is the middle. But still, seeing Goku actually die with a halo is kind of wild. Yeah, especially for people back then. And thank you, Dutch, for the donation. I appreciate it. So let me see Son Goku. Quite a list of commendable achievements here. Yeah, Goku did a lot of good things. So he says it's enough to get yourself straight into heaven. So Goku's already, with his pure heart, already going to get into heaven. But they're like, no, you want him to risk Snake Way? It's like, yeah, so he can save the Earth. Does everyone come when they die? They do. Even aliens? Yes, everyone who's dead comes here to judgment, either heaven or hell. Did a guy named Raditz come through here a while ago? And he's like, your brother, right? Straight to hell, of course. Didn't he put up a fight? Indeed, he did. How I overpowered him. What? Raditz was tough. You must be very strong. Yeah, and then in the ocean dub, he's like, I'd use my patented Yema lock. Remember they added that line, bro?
Yeah, I remember that. That was awesome.
Yeah, so I think this is the last chapter we're going to read today, thankfully. We're almost done. And then here, Kami heard it, and basically you're free to go see Kai-Osama. He has to go through what's called Serpentine Road in the Japanese version, or Snake Way. Either way, it's not a bad translation. So basically here, Kami says the Earth is in deep trouble now. There's a very, very real chance we might not survive this, because it's beyond Piccolo now where they're at. True, we could try wishing our enemies away, but Shenlong might prove powerless to strength of that magnitude. To the Saiyans, Goku's nothing more than inconvenience. Even with Kai-Osama's training, I'm not sure it'll be enough. Until Goku returns, our only hope is his son Gohan. He's young though, and there's no telling how Piccolo will raise him. And then he's like, shut up, because Emma can read his thoughts. And Goku is, I love Toriyama's afterlife, because again, his afterlife is a mirror of, it's like the demon realm. Same thing. It's a mirror of the real world that we live in. Civilizations, cars, cities. It's silly. It's a very silly version of the afterlife, but it's very Toriyama-esque. It's just the way it is, bro. Like,
yeah, in Chinese mythology, they had, so essentially like the aristocratic, civilized form of Chinese culture at that time, because there was like a lot of formal like documents and stuff like that existed during that era. Like, there was a lot of things that business wise, there was a lot of practices that Chinese culture was used to, and they always characterized Yama as like somebody who had to deal with things in a business like manner. Like, that's the reason that he had like the book that was full of people's names that he had to go through and look. It's treated as like a business. It's kind of like when you go to unemployment or something like that. And like Toriyama basically like took that, and he, instead of it making it like the ancient Chinese aesthetic, he made it like a modern business aesthetic, which is hilarious.
And it's funny how people nowadays will question things like, well, it doesn't make sense, Granola's name. And it's like, dude, Granola has a silly name. The main character's name is Carrot. That's fucking silly, bro. Like, people have to remember, no matter how dark the series gets and no matter how deadly the villains are, Toriyama will always figure out a way to put comedy in there one way or another. That's why Daima's writing is so goofy. That's why we have, for the first time in Dragon Ball history, Goku farting. For the first time ever, we get to hear Goku fart, which put a big smile on my face. Dutch says, do you think the dynamic with Piccolo and Gohan would have been different if he was awake and saw him kill his father? I don't think so, because maybe at first, but Piccolo would have to explain to him, like, you have to get this done, but there might be some resentment there.
Maybe
Piccolo would have to explain that Goku did it so that you could live, Yeah. It would have to be explained. Justin Sullivan, can you edit the promo of this video and add Raditz and P. Diddy hiding in the bushes? I don't think I'm going to put P. Diddy on a thumbnail ever, bro, to be honest with you. I don't think I'm ever doing that, bro. Hold on. Xavier then says, would Tien, Yamcha, Krillin, Yajirobe, and Chaozu be stronger in the Saiyan saga if possible if Goku had trained them instead of Mr. Popo and Kami? Probably not. However, you're going down Sparking Zero what if territory because there is a Sparking Zero what if where they all did train together. I feel like if Goku had not died, it would have been what Sparking Zero said. They all would have trained together. And in that case, yes, I think Goku being added to Kami's training would be the next level up. So anyways, so here's Snake Way. You mean Snake Way is really a snake? If you follow the road all the way to the end, you'll take you down straight to Kaiosama. And then this is where he says that Kaiosama is the god of the universe, which he sort of is, but he's the lesser god compared to the higher god. It sure looks long. According to legend, about 1,000,000 kilometers. 1,000,000 kilometers. Let's see. 1,000,000 km in miles. That is 621,371,000 miles, folks. 600,000 miles. And Madao has done it, but it took him 100 million years. Of course, Goku will do it, has 1 year to do it. So less than a year because he has to train. It's so wacky, bro. It's so wacky, but Goku surpasses all challenges. This is a great conversation, too. And then Goku says, fuck it, I'm going to fly. And away he goes. And he says, that's not fair. Well, it doesn't matter if it's fair. He's got to get there. Meanwhile, they're over here like, well, we can't tell Chi-Chi where Gohan is because it's going to be a problem. And I love it because there's a lot of extra filler in the Saiyan saga. One of my favorite filler moments, both dub and sub, is when Krillin goes to the door and he's like, he puts his hat, he's like, Chi-Chi, I wanted to tell you that. No.
Oh, yeah, where he practices.
Yeah, like, look, Piccolo, he took your... No, wait, that's not it. And that's all in the anime. And then the door opened, and Chi-Chi's like, Krillin, what are you doing here? And he's like, he freaks out. I love it, bro. I love it. I love that kind of comedy. So I was wrong. There is one more chapter, chapter 206, Gohan and Piccolo. So I love here we have the three different crews, Piccolo, Gohan, Goku, and then the Dragon Team. And then here we have Piccolo and Gohan being acquainted with each other. And Gohan is, of course,
freaking out.
Basically freaking out. Yeah, he doesn't know what's going on. He's asking for his dad, and he's like, you spoiled brat, I don't have time for this. And then he's like, I'll break your neck, quit whining. And yeah, that's the way you talk to kids, right? Stop right now. And then he's like, I'm sure your father has already told you about the Dragon Balls at some point. His friends are collecting them now to bring him back to life next year. However, that's not what we're here to talk about. Together, we were able to defeat your kidnapper, but there are two even stronger friends of his on their way here now. Even after your father has been resurrected, the two of us alone won't stand a chance. We need your help. If you can be trained, your strength may give us the edge we need to win the battle. Me? I can't fight. It's funny looking back at Gohan here compared to how far he went.
Yeah. People complain about superhero, but to me, it really is like the perfect bow on top of Gohan's character development. I love it.
I agree. Guitar Noob says my semi-gas 717,005 miles. Damn, bro. I'm assuming you're talking about your truck, not the gas coming out of your ass, bro. Hopefully it's not that because mine can go pretty far. So here, Piccolo's like, I'm going to show you proof that you're strong. And straight up just grabs him by the head and chucks him into a mountain. Don't try this at home if you want to have children. Most Dragon Ball fans probably shouldn't have kids. The ones in the chat right now, they're probably okay. But most of them probably are not. So maybe it's best not to, but don't.
This is a very important scene because it associates fight or flight with Gohan.
Literally fight or flight.
Yeah, because and people think that oh, it's just rage, which it is rage. I'm not going to say rage is a part of your fight or flight and your survival instincts. That's the distinction that people need to remember. But Gohan has no reason to be upset in the typical sense here. There's nobody in danger to take advantage of his empathetic, nature and how that affects his emotions. he's just in danger. So he's essentially like forced to go into a fight or flight like state and embrace his rage in order to come out of the situation on top. And this is very, very important because it essentially shows you like what exactly the themes of Piccolo's teachings are. Piccolo like throwing Gohan into the mountain is like metaphorical and symbolic of Piccolo's teachings as a whole, and that is Piccolo throwing Gohan into dangerous situations and teaching him to be able to tap into his fight or flight, his emotions, his power at will in order to survive certain situations. So.
Which is why Pan pretending to be kidnapped and all that worked all the way in the future. Again, here we have the big Chuck, and Gohan gets serious, and look at him right there. Fires a ki blast. His fight or flight not only gives him incredible like boost of speed, but he can fire a ki blast as well into the mountain. Yeah. It fires up, destroys the mountain. Even Piccolo's like, what the fuck? And he's over here like, holy shit, look at that huge trail of damage. Astonishing. It's even greater than I imagined. So here we know that Gohan's the future. Like, we already know that. Toriyama already has that in the back of his head. Yeah. What exactly am I getting myself into to think I'm about to train the child that will become my greatest adversary? Yeah, that's what you think, buddy. He's going to become you're going to be taking care of his daughter one day, bro. You're going to be babysitting his fucking daughter in the Piccolo after school program, bro. That's what you're going to be fucking doing. But I still like it, though. It appears that your powers and your emotions are closely linked. Look at that. It's right there. However, you can't maintain it, which isn't good for us. We're going to turn you into the greatest warrior the world's ever known. Yeah, with that level of potential, that was the whole thing. Someone said Gohan's potential was awakened by demons. It was. Piccolo is a demon, buddy boy. Remember what Daima taught us. Now it's confirmed. He is a demon. And he was a demon even before Daima.
And the Elder Kai. Both.
Yeah. But I'm scared. Quit whining or I'll kill you right now. I love it. Next time that a kid's whiny, just say, shut up or I'll kill you right now. You know, parenting. Piccolo's parenting is Medios wouldn't like it. But if dad's want to be back, I want to be trained by him. And that's too bad. Your dad isn't cut out to be an effective teacher. He doesn't have any gift for commanding respect. That's evidenced by how coddled his own child is. Well, that is Chi-Chi's fault. And then Goku sneezes. Now, the reason as to why Goku sneezes is because it's believed in Japan that if you sneeze, someone's talking about you somewhere. We see it all the time in anime, not just Dragon Ball. It's in watch anime, any toku, whenever someone sneezes, it cuts to somebody else.
Now, you know,
we're done. That is the last. We have finished off this volume.
Tough love and teaching your son about survival and stuff like that. That is a father's role. So like Piccolo is doing a great job, like, you know, teaching Gohan the realities of life in that sense. But Goku does end up doing that a few times. If you remember, whenever, and we'll see this soon, but whenever he fights Vegeta the first time, he's like, did Piccolo teach you anything, bro? Like, you need to, like, you know, fight Vegeta so we can survive this situation. So, like, Goku has a touch of that in him as well. I don't think Piccolo gives him enough credit.
Well, remember, in the Room of Spirit and Time, Gohan was like, you're being too soft on me. Be harder on me. And then Goku does it, and then he freaks out about it. But then he realized that he has to do it. That's one of my favorite Gohan moments. I think that's an underrated Gohan moment.
It is,
I think. Sure. So I like how the chapter ends. And so he runs and runs and runs, blissfully unaware of the misery his son is about to face. We got a couple more super chats left before we close out. Dutch Moon Rocky says, what are your guys' favorite DBZ anime songs? Mine definitely has to be Warning of Danger or Mind Power Key. Those are good choices. Now, he said DBZ. He didn't say Dragon Ball GT Super. I think songs I like Dragon Power from Dragon Ball Z Movie 11, which is Bio Broly. Bad movie, but the best closing song ever. It's a phenomenal song. The Revival of Fusion song is great. And of course, this is for just Z. Like, I love Ikari, which is the movie 2 song, The World's Strongest, which is the ending song, which is basically sampled from Earth, Wind, and Fire, Boogie Wonderland. Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah.
Boogie Wonderland. So what's yours?
I like the original outro.
Oh, and
Zenkai
also Spirit versus Spirit. SS2 Gohan. I forgot that. Go ahead,
I
bro. I'm
like the
sorry.
original outro, the Zenkai Power. I like that song a lot. Even
Tobikini
though,
Zenkai Power.
yeah, even though it is very, very wacky. And I also like um, probably the original opening is probably my favorite from the Z era. Um, but
My favorite openings right now for Dragon Ball is number one is Makafushigi Adventure. This is beyond Z. This is just Dragon Ball overall. Number
yeah,
two is Dan Dan, because that's a great, great song. And number three is Jaka John from Daima. I
yeah,
fucking love that song, bro.
yeah.
Do you have another song outside of Z that you like that you want to talk about briefly before we get out of here?
Yeah, the song from Super, the Evil Angel, Holy Devil song that they do. I love that song.
Oh yeah, I also loved Boogie Back or whatever
Boogie
that
Back's
song.
good too. Yeah, that's
Yeah, dude,
wacky, but
Super
yeah.
Super had some good songs, bro. I like this question right here, bro. Indica or sativa? Little bit of A, little bit of B. All right, last super chat here from Xavier. Could Goku have trained on King Kai's while alive? Because in the future, we do see him on King Kai's planet training or hanging out. Well, that's because he had already trained there. Like, you don't get access to the Kaios unless you are dead, and you get special treatment to do that. That
Yeah.
goes for all the Kais. That was talked about a bit more in the other world tournament. So you have to be dead first. If Goku had never met King Kai, he would not be allowed there because they did become friends. So, yeah, somebody said Spirit versus Spirit. Yeah, that's a great song, bro, especially the full version. Anyways, we are out of here, bro. We went an extra hour today. I don't think we've done one this long, but it's the beginning of Z, so there's a lot. Next time, Gohan becomes a great ape for the first time, and Piccolo has to deal with it. Any final thoughts, Jordan?
Nope. Had an amazing stream. Had a blast. I hope you guys have a great day. Please go check out my latest video. I just dropped it today. It's about Gohan Beast and his connection to Daima. Go check it out.
Yes, do that because there's probably more to come with that. Maybe we'll see.
Yeah.
I'm out. Take care, y'all. See you real soon.